What's going on, fellow A-Plusers? It's your boy, Adam Perez. We're back once again with a brand new live episode of A-Plus Hero Report, your weekly stop for your Marvel, DC, television, and movie news, streaming live for you guys today over on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and Twitter. It's so good to certainly have you guys back here today. We are, in fact, having 5 incredible topics that we're going to be diving into for you guys today. Some honorable mentions, some live viewer questions at the end. Sit back, grab your coffee, enjoy your afternoon with us, and we'll see you guys on the other side. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, or I should say good morning here in Texas. Good afternoon on the East Coast. Good morning on the West Coast. It is I, your host, Adam Perez. We're back once again with a brand new episode of A-Plus Hero Report. We took a little bit of hiatus last weekend to celebrate the holiday that was, in fact, Easter, but we are back, baby. Not only myself, but my good old co-host, Stuart Branscombe. What's going on, buddy? How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. Easter wasn't the only holiday we had to take the day off for.
Yeah, it was interesting that they kind of fell on the same day, and I felt like I feel like just went to church. I can't be sinning like this immediately. But it was also, I believe wasn't it WrestleMania weekend too? I feel like it was a little bit of everything. Maybe I'm tripping. We had a lot of stuff. We had Star Wars Celebration also last weekend. I mean, it was a busy weekend, man. It was a busy weekend, and it kept us busy around here for sure. But it's good to have you back, Stuart. Good to talk some nerd talk with you from movies to television. How's your week been, man, so far?
Oh man, it's been busy, but yeah, I'm just glad I finally have the next 2 days off. So yeah.
What are you gonna do with yourself? Do you know?
Well, definitely going to catch up on some chores that I've been kind of putting off for a little bit. Definitely going to be doing that tomorrow. Today is Sunday, so I'm just taking this day to relax, though. I'm not doing anything at all. But I did this last week watch the show Follow the House of Usher, which surprised me how good it was. And I shouldn't have been surprised by it because I loved Midnight Mass, which was by the same guy. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, he's either going to be writing or directing the upcoming Clayface movie. I believe he's writing it. And just this guy knows how to write dialogue, so I'm excited.
Nice. That is exciting, dude. I had no idea he was going to be writing that. That's cool. I look really forward. I've heard of it, but I've never checked it out for myself. Maybe that's something I'll put on my list. I'm in the process right now of, even though I started Andor season 2, I'm still doing a little bit of a season 1 sort of rewatch. Although Will just told me that Disney Plus has a great season 1 recap of Andor that might be worth watching instead. And I'm almost finished watching Paradise right now, the Hulu series. I don't know if you've heard of it or not. But I think I'm like down to like the last 2 or 3 episodes. It is so good, man. It is so good. Yeah, Paradise. Scene and Nerd, Will and Sarah were reviewing it on a weekly basis, and they just kept talking about how good it kept getting week after week after week. And I started hearing a couple people here and there on Twitter talking really great about the series. So I had to give it a shot myself, and yeah, man, it's living up to the hype that a lot of people have been having so far. So I'm looking forward to finishing off Paradise season 1.
Speaking of really good TV shows, actually, have you been watching The Last of Us?
Yes.
Okay, so you've seen episode 2.
Yes.
You have no idea. So I've seen so many TikTok videos, and this is kind of like how I felt every time we bring up The Last of Us. Is like what it feels like watching The Last of Us season 2 as someone who's played the game versus someone who hasn't. And this whole time, every time we're talking about it, I'm just kind of like, "Ooh, Adam doesn't know what he's getting into. He doesn't know what's going to happen so early on in the season."
I mean, hold on. I'm trying to find my I'm trying to find my spoiler warning. I'm trying to find my my spoiler warning tag. I had it up here, and then I think I eventually took. Oh, here it goes. Let me put this up here real quick, because I do want to talk real quick briefly about The Last of Us. The Last of Us. We're talking about The Last of Us, y'all. Hold on. Okay, I just want to put this at the bottom so people were like, they can't say I didn't warn them. Spoiler warning: if you haven't watched season 2, episode 2 of The Last of Us, I just want to say this briefly. I knew about Joel. I just didn't know when, how, who. You know, I had no
Okay.
idea. I had no idea when, how, who, and so I was blown away that they. It's like the second episode. I just got into this show. I just got into this season, and my man is gone in 2 episodes. And I'm sitting here. I mean, first off, my girlfriend was bawling. I mean, she wasn't bawling, but I looked over at her and face red, tears. I mean, she was a mess. I got that choke in my throat, you know, the one eye swelling up with water type of thing. And I'm sitting here thinking to myself, where does this season go? Like, where do we go from here? Like, I'm really floored. Like, I have no idea what to expect. But you know, the one thing I think for me, the heartbreak comes from not only because Pedro Pascal is incredible as Joel, but I think it's the idea of a lot of things left unsaid and
Mhm.
unresolved between Ellie and Joel that are just like she's never gonna get that time back anymore, you know. And I feel crushed for her. And it is one of those things of like actions have consequences, dude. You know, and I appreciated Joel like taking it like a man. You know, he didn't bitch, he didn't cry, he didn't like ask for forgiveness or anything like that. It was just the case of like, can we get this over with already? Like, you know, you're doing a lot of talking, but you're not doing anything. And I, you know, he knew his time had run its course, and I appreciate Joel accepting it the way that he did. Um, but yeah, I was just crushed for Ellie mostly because of the fact that, you know, one, your actions have consequences. Things always will come back. It's a sense of karma, but just don't leave things unsaid between people. You know what I mean? It's like if you've got resentments that you're holding on to people, you know, let go of that stuff. If you got some forgiveness to dish out, forgive people, accept the wrong that you've done, like because you just don't know how long you're going to be around for, you know what I'm saying? And I think this show did a really good job of like just so abrupt. Like I thought we were going to have half a season with this man, and unfortunately we just did not. So it to me, I'm just like I don't know where we go from here, Stuart. I
Mhm.
really don't.
It yeah, that was what kind of blew me away too. Like when I played the game, watching the show, I expected it to kind of happen in the first episode, but kind of seeing
Mm,
why it didn't, I think it was actually kind of smarter to wait one episode to give us like a, because in the game it's like one of those things where you hear about like the fact that Joel and Ellie aren't like on the best of terms, but they don't really tell you what it is that
why? Okay.
happened, and so you have to learn about it through flashbacks. And
Oh,
it was just when they finally reveal it, you're like, I mean, it is a little bit of a twist in the sense of, oh, so Ellie knew why the Fireflies were mad at Joel, okay, but it wasn't really like a full on twist in the sense of because you didn't know how mad they were. So I guess that's why it was kind of an interesting twist. But I kind of like this direction better. I think it works better for TV,
for TV.
and what they did in the video game worked really well for a video game, and that's what I think works so well with The Last of Us. They change only what needs to be changed so it fits better for TV, but it's still the exact same story. So I feel like yeah, if they do the same direction that they do in the video game, it's definitely going to be interesting because we're going to be in a whole nother setting. We're going to be introduced to a character played by Jeffrey Wright, and he's reprising the same role that he played in the video game, which I think is pretty cool.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so I can't wait. I think you're going to enjoy it, and I think it's going to be an epic season.
I hope so. I have a feeling that I certainly will. Again, I'm really going into this blind, but I am glad to hear from somebody that's played the video game, just approval of the like the direction and how they've kind of layered it out. I mean, I think Craig Mazin, just as a showrunner and just as a showrunner and writer in general, is incredible. If you haven't seen the other Max show that he did or HBO series Chernobyl, definitely give it a shot. It was absolutely incredible. I don't know if it was nominated for best series of the year or not, but Craig Mazin teamed up with Neil Druckmann. I think it's just a killer combination. And so I had a lot of belief that, you know, that they would certainly adapt this correct. And it seems a season and 2 episodes in, they're doing incredible work right now. But yeah, I did go ahead and drop my review. Did I drop a review? I think I recorded it. I don't know if I ever dropped my review for The Last of Us season 2, episode 2. I did record it. I don't know if I actually posted it yet though. But maybe I'll try and do that today before tomorrow's episode winds up dropping. But look, guys, look, as we go through these topics today, remember, these are simply our A plus opinions, but we always certainly want to know yours. So let your thoughts be known in the live chat. Feel free to talk with us about any of the topics that we certainly go through today. We definitely would love to hear from you guys. If you want to support the channel monetarily, super chats are available, super stickers, super images, whatever the case may be. Feel free to support the channel. We don't have any sponsors, so our show grows really based off of your help. And if you do provide us a super chat, we'll definitely celebrate you. We'll bring you up on screen. We'll certainly announce you, discuss what you are providing for us here. Yeah, we'll definitely give everybody the opportunity to shine here today. So we definitely appreciate your guys' help. And if you can't help out monetarily, man, just do us a big favor. Subscribe to the channel and especially hit that like button. It definitely does go a long way. Share some of the clips, share this video, let people know that we're currently live, as we got some incredible topics we're going to be diving into for you guys today. Let's give some people some shout outs, man. Darth, what's up, Darth? Good to see you, man. He says we're chilling. Good to see you're doing pretty well over there today, man. Hopefully you enjoyed Star Wars Celebration last weekend. We're going to talk a little bit about that here today. Enrique in the house said he saw the extended trailer for the upcoming Zombies for Dawn of the Vampires, and it will premiere on Disney Channel in July. Very cool. Disney Channel is going to premiere Percy Jackson and the Olympians live action series on Friday, May 2nd, with the first 2 episodes. I guess that's season 2. Season 2 episodes, maybe on May 2nd. Looking forward to that. Also during Star Wars,
or he actually it says Disney Channel, so I wonder if they mean not Disney.
Oh, not Disney Plus.
So that's why it'd be season 1 of Percy Jackson.
Gotcha. That makes a lot more sense. Star Wars Celebration just saw the teaser trailer for Young Jedi Adventures season 3, and it will premiere on Disney Junior and Disney Plus in fall of 2025. I heard that might be the last season of that show. Have you checked it out at all, or like seen what it is?
I've seen like clips of it here and there, and it looks pretty fun and adorable.
Yeah, it's definitely for kids. I was thinking about like letting my son watch, but then started thinking to myself like, I don't know if this is how I want to introduce him to Star Wars yet. You know, like I just don't know.
I did. I saw like the funniest thing where someone posted like an out of context clip from it, and then they posted like a clip from Andor season 2, and they're just like, "Remember, everyone, these take place in the same universe."
I love it. I love it. Let's see here. What else we got? He said he saw the first clips from Marvel Studios' new movie Thunderbolts on official Marvel Entertainment YouTube channel. Yeah, I'm kind of avoiding the clips for Thunderbolts right now. I have seen that they've been dropping clips, but I'm like, I don't know if I want to. Like, I've seen enough trailers already. I really don't want to watch any other clips.
Yeah, I feel like if you could put all the trailers and clips in order, you almost have like half the movie.
Yeah, I'm trying to really avoid it. Enrique also says next Sunday, Star Wars Day, May the 4th is here. Oh, that's right.
Heck yes.
May the 4th will in fact be next Sunday. I guess that means we're gonna get our Tales of the Underworld series dropping also. I'm curious what else they're doing for May the 4th. Have you heard anything else that Star Wars might be doing?
Nope. But if it's Star Wars, I'll try to get a review for that because I reviewed the last couple seasons, really enjoying them. So I'll see if I can get a review for this one as well.
Oh, for
Tales of the Underworld.
Tales of the Underworld. Did you do it as a season review last time? Do you recall?
Yeah, I did as a season review because it was only 6 episodes both times, and each episode's like less than 20 minutes, I believe. Because they were pretty compact, like really small, like self-contained stories.
Yeah, they really were. So yeah, we'll see how that goes, but I'm looking forward to it. And then we got Blossom here. What's up, Blossom? Certainly good to see you as always, certainly coming through. So thank you guys so much. So yeah, wherever you're watching us from, feel free to go ahead and chime in at any particular time. I'm just posting our stuff on social media right now to let people know that we are currently live. But I think it's you know what, Stuart? Let's get into some honorable mention, shall we? Let's kick the show off, man. Here we go. First segment of the day. And we're going to get into our honorable mentions segment here, where topics that we felt still deserved for you guys to certainly know about, but didn't quite make our cut for topics to certainly discuss here today. Stuart, do you have any honorable mentions by any chance or anything you want to throw our way?
Um, I this isn't really new news, but I don't think we talked about it too much on the channel. But my fiance is definitely looking forward to it because she loves the Hunger Games books.
Oh,
But
yeah.
they're currently working on the next Hunger Games prequel, which will of course be about oh god, what was his name? Haymitch, I believe, Woody Harrelson's character.
Yeah.
So he'll be the main character. They've already casted for him. I didn't recognize the actor because it was kind of a no name. But they did cast.
Oh,
Also,
Jesse. Oh, not. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead. I
yeah.
thought. Yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, they did cast the guy who's kind of like who was kind of in charge of the whole operations of both basically the one who was playing both sides but was really fighting with the resistance. So they casted him, and yeah, who I believe you were going to say Jesse Plemons, or
Yeah.
as I like to call him, Meth Damon. He's going to be playing him, which I think was kind of one of the best casting choices they could have done. So I'm really looking forward to this movie. From what my fiance tells me though, the one thing she's not looking forward to is it being PG-13, because apparently all the Hunger Games books are definitely pretty graphic, pretty violent, but this one in particular, she was saying they get so detailed with like some of the deaths in this, like they're so detailed about it that it's going to be like weird watching it watered down for a younger audience.
Really? It's gonna be like that, huh?
Yeah.
That's crazy. I had no idea that they would. Well, personally, I haven't read really any of the Hunger Game books, but yeah, I mean, they've been relatively young adults, so you would think they would keep them in the PG-13 realm. But yeah, maybe they're pushing the boundaries a little bit on this one. That'd be kind of crazy.
Mhm.
Let's see here. What other honorable mentions do we have? Wednesday, season 2 dropped a brand new poster and a teaser also. I can't remember exactly when the release date for this season is going to be. Have you checked out the trailer for season 2 yet?
Nah, mostly because I never finished season 1. I don't know what it was. It's not that I thought it was bad. I just I just wasn't hooked on it after a couple episodes.
I got you. Yeah, I mean, I feel like it was kind of hit or miss for some people. I was actually a pretty big fan of it. There are elements that I know Jenna Ortega has talked about. She sat down with Tim Burton and the crew, making some improvements on season 2. So I am kind of curious to see what those improvements certainly might look like. But there is a brand new teaser out if you guys want to check it out for yourself. But yeah, season 2 is upon us. I was a big fan of the first season. I did certainly enjoy it for what it was. Um, Also, we got some brand new images that were released here from Captain America: Brave New World. Even though that movie is well past gone now, Stuart, I remember we had gotten some concept art that had revealed to us Tim Blake Nelson as the leader. I don't remember if you remember this. For those of you who don't remember, Brave New World was delayed like a year or like a year and a half or something crazy. Like they had already created a bunch of marketing and promotional posters, artwork, yada yada yada, and some of that stuff started to leak relatively early before Brave New World even dropped. And I wanted to remind people what we wind up having, Stuart, in regards to, do you remember us showing off these? Tim Blake Nelson as the leader,
Mhm.
as Samuel Stearns. I remember when this first got revealed, I was like, I kind of dig it. I kind of dig it. I love the big ass forehead. He literally looks like the leader straight out of the comic books. And then when we got the opportunity to see the movie, we got this. We got this. Um, and there were aspects of his design that when I watch in the movie, especially in the dark and when he's first introduced, I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. But once he starts getting into the daylight and the movie goes further and further, it's just like I'm not, I don't know how I'm feeling about this design compared to what was originally showcased in the marketing materials. But Stuart, we actually have new images that just released of Tim Blake Nelson. Like this was a thing. Like the marketing was spot on. This is what he was going to look like originally. And I even remember in some of his interviews he was talking about the idea of like he wanted it to be like practical so that he could kind of feel like the weight of it on his head and stuff and really kind of channel, I don't like, I'm not like a method performer or anything like that, but to help with his sort of acting ability in that sense of feeling the weight of what this man is kind of turned into. And I always thought that was a really cool concept, and looking at it, I'm sitting here thinking to myself, Stuart, this or this?
What's funny is that even as even if I were to look at this as a non-comic book fan, right? Even if I were just looking at this strictly as a like movie kind of design, to me, this feels more like the character that they were trying to portray than the one that, we see in the movie. The one in the movie doesn't really feel like the leader, like the character that they wanted him to be. Feels like a horror victim or something. But this actually feels like a super villain, like the kind that you would see in a movie like Captain America: Brave New World. So definitely this.
Yeah, I'm really bummed. I mean, I would have even been cool with this design, and if they even wanted to add some of the scales or the bumps or like the tumors and stuff onto it, I would have been perfectly okay with this. So I'm really surprised that they decided for some reason to change course in the middle of the reshoots, I would assume. To go from that to something along these lines. I mean, maybe some people prefer this over this design, but I don't want to say disturbed, but it definitely threw me for a loop when I remember us showcasing these images. And then when I went to go see the movie, I got something vastly different. And I'm like, I have no idea what changed, but something definitely changed among them for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, guys, let us know your thoughts in that regards. Also, while we were away, Stuart, we did get ourselves a brand new Superman behind the scenes. Did you see the behind the scenes featurette a couple was it last week? I believe it dropped.
I did, and
What'd you think of it?
I absolutely love everything that we're seeing. Like from Metamorpho, like I think his design is really cool. And when I heard originally that he was going to be all practical, I was wondering how that was going to look. And now seeing it here, I think it's going to be incredible. Look at Hawkgirl's outfit. It's okay, but I think again, it's kind of meant to be underwhelming because of like whatever kind of plot they're going for. I think the whole point is that they're corporatized superheroes, and so they're not supposed to look inspiring in any way. But yeah, I really like the overall like what we got from. I want another trailer though. I love these behind the scenes, these extended clips that we're getting. But come on, James Gunn, give us a second trailer.
Yeah, I'm ready for the second trailer. I would assume it's be dropping sometime in May here. It's in April. People have saying they think that's following the Barbie sort of marketing plan where they dropped the trailer in May. So I'm just thinking, I don't know how many more months you got, man, but we needed an official trailer and maybe a secondary trailer. I have no idea how many trailers they even plan on giving us, or maybe we just get one big official trailer that's like 3 minutes long or like 2.5 minutes long, and then after that it's just more like clips or something. I have no idea what the marketing scheme is here, but I thought the behind the scenes was a really great first look. The Metamorpho stuff just blew me away, seeing that there's an actual practical suit involved here, which I'm sure we know that there's going to be CGI elements and stuff and special effects added to it, but just to kind of see all these superheroes in one movie is blowing my mind. And I Isabella Merced as Hawkgirl. I think especially after seeing her as Dina in The Last of Us, I'm getting more and more on board with this casting and just the Isabella Merced rise to power in Hollywood. I think you definitely need to see a little bit more of her, and I cannot wait to see what she does here as Hawkgirl. But I do love this image too of Superman. There's something about the lighting. It's just giving off this vibe that I'm really a big fan of right now. But yeah, I'm glad you had the opportunity to check out some of the behind the scenes stuff. Let's see here. Also, guys, Sinners is out. Sinners is out this week. I don't know if you've heard or have had the opportunity to check out Sinners. Please do so. This is its second weekend right now. We did go ahead and drop our review for Sinners this past week. I actually have plans on seeing it again, Stuart, tomorrow. Tomorrow night, me and my friend Jonathan are going to go to the IMAX in Dallas to go see it on 70 millimeters. There's only 10 locations in the world that are playing, or in the country that are playing it. And luckily for me, Dallas is one of them. So I'm going to go ahead and check this bad boy out on IMAX 70 millimeter tomorrow. Have you checked out Sinners at all yet?
Unfortunately, no, but I will tomorrow as well because I have tomorrow off, and yeah.
Yeah, definitely check it out, man. If you haven't gotten your tickets, please do. It's doing killer at the box office
Oh
right
yes.
now. We just got this report today from Variety. Center scores $45 million in a massive second week. The Star Wars re-release actually beats out Accountant 2, which I actually hear is a pretty good movie too. But it says Sinners towered over the box office again, scoring a mighty $45 million in its second weekend of release. Ticket sales declined a mere 6% from its 48 million starting the weekend previous. A rare film with the sophomore outing that nearly matched its debut. It's especially impressive for a horror genre that's known to fall sharply after its opening weekend. So far, Sinners has grossed about $122 million domestically and $161 million globally, against the 90 million production budget. So it's making a ton of money right now, especially for an original IP coming from Ryan Coogler. So $161 million right now. Pretty impressive for Sinners, to be honest with you. And I think it's only going to be in IMAX. Well, I think it might be in IMAX a little bit longer. I don't know if it's going to be in 70 millimeters very long, but we do have Thunderbolts that is coming out on Thursday. That's going to be taking up some of the IMAX screens. But if you have the opportunity to check out Sinners, please do, man. Support original movies. We have a lot of people that say, Hollywood doesn't give us enough original movies. This is one of them. So let's push back against that narrative. They probably has a little bit more to go to break even, but it's on an incredible pace right now. And I'm so proud for Ryan Coogler and the team.
Yeah, now that I finally have a day off, I'm definitely going to be watching this movie. I remember there was a thing where Deadline had kind of they released the numbers last weekend saying, "Oh, 60 million, which is not what it needs to make its money back." They were basically, the headline kind of implied that the movie wasn't doing well, and
Oh
so
yeah.
Ben Stiller retweeted it
Oh
saying,
yeah.
"It's in what world is 60 million opening day a failure?"
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. How sometimes the narrative really shifts, but I think they probably take into account a couple things. Again, most people expect the drop off for a second weekend to be like 50%, 40%. If it's a really bad weekend, maybe 60 or 70% from first weekend to second weekend. But 6% is like godly.
Mhm.
And so it definitely has legs. Word of mouth is certainly going around. If I'm Warner Brothers, I'm keeping this movie in theaters at least for a good month and a half. With as many screens as theaters will certainly allow. Because when I went, the theater was packed last week. And I kid you not, Stuart, I tried to go and see this on IMAX 70 millimeters. I looked for tickets all weekend and I could not find tickets. It was sold out on IMAX screens, except for the first two rows where you gotta do this to watch. I was like, no, I'm not doing that. But other than that, sold out everywhere, to the point I could only find good seats Monday night at 11 p.m., bro. 11 p.m. I got to go to the last showing in order to get a good seat. People are coming out for this movie in droves, and they want to see it in as many formats as possible. And I think it's really doing a great job of benefiting this movie, honestly.
Mhm.
But yeah, definitely check out Sinners if you haven't. I did go ahead and grade it. I had a fantastic time with this movie. Acting was top notch. I thought the editing was incredible. Directing, there's one of the best cinematic scenes I've seen in a long time in movies. In this, also the sound and the music is unbelievable. I've never wanted a soundtrack so badly from a movie since Spider-Man 2 since Spider-Man 2 Sam Raimi, dude. Like it's been a minute since I've actually picked up a soundtrack to a movie. This might be up here, but this is my first A plus in a long time for a movie. But I feel it was personally really deserved. But I look, if you guys have seen Sinners, I want to know your thoughts in the comment section box below. Please go ahead and certainly let me know. And then Stuart, once you see Sinners, let me know what you think, man.
I definitely will. Even though I haven't seen it, I can definitely vouch for the music because of course, as you guys know, I work at a theater. So, of course, I'm constantly running food because it's the Draft House, the restaurant theater. So I'm constantly running food to different tables. So I'm mostly like in the theater while the movie is playing. So I've definitely heard a lot of the music and it is pretty incredible.
Yeah, I'm looking for. I think Ludwig, whatever his last name is, the guy that did the theme to the Mandalorian, and he also did the stuff for Oppenheimer, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong, but he's doing a lot of the musical scores and stuff for Sinners, and he's doing an incredible job so far. And then last but not least, guys, our Andor season 2, episode 1 to 3 review is currently up. Go ahead and check it out. We will be doing live Andor reviews every Thursday at 10 p.m. Central Time. Or wait, is it 10 p.m. Central Time? Or is it 11 p.m. Central Time? I can't remember now, Stuart.
I think it was 10. Yeah, it was 10 p.m. Central Time.
But yeah, Andor season 2, episode 3 is currently up. It was myself, Will, and Crystal. And then Stuart will in fact be joining us next week. So if you haven't had the opportunity to watch it, please go ahead and do so. Certainly catch up and then join us this upcoming Wednesday. How did you like the first 3? Oh, you did tell me how you liked it, but how did you like it?
I freaking loved the first 3 episodes. I saw a lot of people. The big complaint that a lot of them seemed to have was that it was really slow, and I definitely get that. It definitely took its time, but I was okay with that. I think that because again, I think like that's what Andor does such a good job of is that like even if it's like kind of slow pace at first, I do feel like the payoff is always kind of worth it at the end. That's definitely how I felt when it premiered. Like with season 1 with the first 3 episodes, I was not really into the first 2 episodes at first. Upon rewatch, I love the first 2 episodes. I want to make that clear. They're great. They're really well filmed, very well written, but I wasn't hooked onto it just because I didn't really see where they were going. And then by the time episode 3 ended, when we got the real big payoff and you kind of see, okay, now I kind of get what they're building up to here. That's where I had a complete 180 on the show and was like, okay, no, this is absolutely amazing. So I feel like we're going to get that this season. And from what other critics that have actually seen the entire season have been saying, these first 3 episodes are the worst and it only gets better from here. So
really,
if this is the show at its worst, I cannot wait to see what the show's got in store for us.
damn, I can't even imagine it being the worst. That's pretty crazy to me. I was thinking to myself too, like after watching these episodes, what this could certainly turn out to be in the sense of like I have a feeling like it's just gonna kind of pick up from here. But that's kind of crazy that people say these first 3 are like the worst, if you will. Because yeah, I thought overall they were still pretty good. But yeah, guys, let us know your thoughts. Who else we got in this live chat before we jump into our main topics? Blossom says Wednesday looks so different than I remember. She says I grew up with how Christina Ricci was her as well as her animated self from 1992. I think Jenna Ortega is doing a pretty good job as Wednesday. When I see Jenna Ortega, I can see I definitely see some Wednesday in her for sure. I think visually, I think she looks like her a lot. Blossom says leader looks so weird. Yeah, you should check out the movie if you haven't done so yet. She says grew up with the leader from '96, maybe the animated stuff. Tim looks like how I remembered him. Yeah, I thought his makeup job was great. It's a bummer that they switched it up last second.
Yeah. Because the more I think about it, the more I'm just kind of like, what purpose did that serve? Like, I mean, the only thing I can think of is that it did kind of make the scenes with him in the shadows look a little more horror like, but it wasn't even a horror movie that they were going for. So yeah, I don't know. It's weird. It's a weird one of the many weird reshoots and rewrites that they did with the movie that I just like I don't fully understand.
Let's see here. Marcelo says, I see a lot of people crapping on the original leader's design and says that the final product is better because it looks more serious and grounded, while the original is too cartoony. I mean, look, fair enough for their own opinions. I prefer the original design myself. I just think for me, it doesn't hold up. Like, again, I think it's just also the reshoot concept of uh, some of the stuff, especially in the lighting, when we get into him being out in the open, um,
Oh,
it just feels like all the color is kind of drained from his body, and he just doesn't look good to me in real life. Whereas I think the first original design feels more um authentic to like just his physical features in general, and I think maybe it probably would have appeared better on screen. Whereas like when I look at his final design, it to me it feels like a rushed design in a sense. You know what I mean? Like they just tried to put something on last minute, and it just didn't work visually when I look at it as like a final screen test on camera. It doesn't look really great to me. I really would have loved to have seen more behind the scenes footage and screen testing of the original concept, honestly. But look, to each their own. Not everything certainly works for people, but I'm a more of a fan of the original design than what we ended up with.
yeah. The other thing with the reshoots too is holy crap, they looked really not the indoor ones, but the outdoor
The
ones that you were
outdoor
mentioning.
ones.
They look so bad. Like you could tell that the actors aren't in the same area when they're filming. You could tell they're filming at different times, and then you could also just tell that he's in front of a green screen. Like it's not even a good green screen.
Marcelino says, oh, shout out to Laser. Appreciate you coming through, Laser. Thank you so much. Um, he says the first two episodes of Andor season one are done to build up the community, showing the people in the community, so that the way the payoff where the community fights the Empire at the end. I mean, yeah, we'll see what. Andor season one. I get what you mean. All right, guys. With that out of the way, let's dive into our main topics. You ready to get this with me, Stuart?
Always.
Let's dive into it, man. We got some incredible topics we're going to dive into here for you guys today. Kicking off with our main article, which is going to be a recap here of Star Wars Celebration. Look, a lot of things went on in Star Wars Celebration last weekend. I'm only going to talk about maybe 4 or 5 things. Well, really, really like 2 big things that certainly happened that I think certainly warrants our attention. And then we're going to go into some Star Wars stories that really kind of picked up right at the tail end of Star Wars Celebration, or coming out of Star Wars Celebration, that I found really interesting and worthy of talking about. We did personally go ahead and do a live reaction to night 1 of Star Wars Celebration, where they had the Lucasfilm panel where they highlighted a bunch of things, not only the Mandalorian and Grogu, but also the reveal of Ryan Gosling himself officially going to be in a Star Wars movie. So the Star Wars stuff is going to be our main recap, and then we'll get into a bunch of other titles for you here today. But a successful Star Wars Celebration, if you ask me, over in Japan. They have officially announced that they will be back here in the States for the next Star Wars Celebration in 2027, as they're going to be in Los Angeles. So I am already planning it because I definitely need to go. I gotta get Stuart out there with me. Hopefully we can get Will and Crystal and have a big sort of high council meeting and hang out with you guys at Star Wars Celebration and give you a bunch of content. But Star Wars Celebration 2025 has officially wrapped. And one of the things that I wanted to talk about, Stuart, first off, from the first night that I found really interesting was the reveal of Sean Levy's movie, officially titled Star Wars Starfighter. For first impressions, a little bit too much star in the title, personally. Maybe they'll go with another name by the time it releases. Who certainly knows? But Star Wars Starfighter was released, and they even had Ryan Gosling himself come out on stage to confirm that yes, the rumors were true. He quickly jumped on board to be a part of this movie, and casting is currently underway. They even talked a little bit about the idea that production for this movie will be going into production later this fall. So they're no longer sort of like in that development stage. They are currently very much in like that pre-production stage, getting all the pieces together so they can begin filming. So I know some people worry, like, is this movie even happening? I'll believe it when I see it, which I totally understand that. But Sean Levy and Ryan Gosling are very straightforward about the idea of like, no, this is going to go into filming this fall. So we'll see if that momentum holds up. So let's go ahead and dive into this, because Ryan Gosling certainly had some things to definitely say. Let me see if I can find it. This is from I think this is StarWarsNewsNet.com. Beautiful picture of Ryan Gosling here. Ryan Gosling officially cast in Sean Levy's standalone Star Wars Starfighter film. Oh, you gonna give me problems here too? Come on, man. After months in reports, it's official. Ryan Gosling has been cast as the lead in Sean Levy's Star Wars film. Gosling was introduced at the panel during the currently ongoing Star Wars celebration. He announced his casting and revealed that the film will be a standalone adventure titled Star Wars Starfighter. The film is currently set to release May 28th in 2027, with production beginning this fall. He's got a couple things that he said here. Levy's film is set 5 to 6 years after the events of the rise of Skywalker. So this gives us a timeline period. While we don't have any additional details about the film yet, including any details on Gosling's character, we did get some heartfelt enthusiasm from the star on his inclusion in Star Wars. He says, the script is so good. It has such a great story with original characters. It's filled with so much heart and adventure. Star Wars has framed my idea of what a movie is. He says the movie is a new adventure. It's new characters. It takes place in a new period of time after the Battle of Exegol, so after Episode 9. And so there's so many opportunities to tell a Star Wars story that has all the heart and action and fun of Star Wars, but to do it in ways that are new and original. The peak of the starship seen earlier at the panel is just one example of the world we haven't seen on screen. They said they asked about where the development process is. He says, we're not in development. We're in pre-production. We're shooting. We're going to start shooting this fall to come out May 27th. He says, just being here and seeing all of you is more inspiring to do it, because there's so much creativity and imagination in this room, and there's so much love. It's such a great reminder of how much movies can mean to us, especially and specifically how much these movies mean to us. The Force is a mysterious thing, but as I'm here, I feel like the Force is the fans. All we can hope for is may the fans be with us. Yeah,
that's cheesy, but kind of adorable.
Yeah, it is, especially in today's day and age. You kind of, yeah, hopefully the fans will be with you, man. So yeah, they did have a oops, I didn't mean to click on that. They did have a reveal of the title sequence. If it'll load for me now. My dumbass clicked out of it by mistake. We may not be able to get the title sequence, but that's okay. Oh, here it is. Let's see. Will it work for me? Come on, man. Let's see. Can we get it? Don't want to work for me. Fuck it. Anyway. So yes, we're Ryan Gosling set to be in Star Wars Starfighter. We don't have too many details on it, but it takes place 5 years afterwards. How are you feeling about the idea of this movie actually coming together? Are you one of those people that are like, I'll believe it when I see it? Or after hearing Sean Levy say, look, we're not in development anymore. We're very much in pre-production. I don't think I had you for your thoughts on this when we did our live reaction, but how do you feel about this news, man?
Honestly, I'm with the exception of Mandalorian and Grogu, I'm definitely at the I'll believe it when I see it stage with every Star Wars project at the moment. So me saying that for this one is not an attack on this film in particular. It's just me saying that because I feel like we've gotten so many Star Wars movie announcements, and so far the only one to be going through is Mandalorian and Grogu. That said, I do love the idea of a Star Wars movie with a where we follow a Starfighter pilot. Like I know we were originally going to get something like this directed by Patty Jenkins a while ago, but I guess that fell through. So now we have it again, but with Ryan Gosling as like our star now. So and then Sean Levy directing it. I think there's a lot of potential there. Especially if they give it kind of the Top Gun treatment. I don't expect them to be like actually flying real jets or anything like that. But if they can, I think that you could still make a real you could still make a Starfighter movie feel like you're in a Starfighter without having to use like a real airplane, if unless they wanted to go that direction, which I think you theoretically could, just with some small like green screen enhancements. But that all to be said, yeah, I think that there's a lot of potential there. Since we know so little other than the timeline of what this movie is going to be about, I wouldn't really say I have much hype for it, but I am definitely, because we as fans are constantly saying we want more Star Wars and we want more Star Wars that like kind of expands the universe rather than telling the same story. Now that we're getting something like that, of course, I'm definitely going to be seeing it when it comes out to theaters. So all I can do is hope that it ends up working out.
Yeah, no, I really hope that this works out, man. I really want to see this film happen. I'm sure that it will. I don't think I'm at the stage of I'll believe it when I see it just yet. I think if anything, I think this movie will happen regardless. Will it end up being like a Lord and Miller situation where like filming for Solo's already begun, and then they realize this is not the movie that we want, and then they bring up, bring other people in, and then we get just what we wind up getting in Solo? It could end up being that situation, but I do expect that this movie does go into pre-production, and I think Sean Levy is certainly on a roll in regards to the films that he's kind of made. The idea of this being a Starfighter movie, at the panel, they did peek out what looked to be like a brand new Starfighter design. So I do wonder if he's going to be kind of like that cocky, arrogant pilot. Sort of whether that be like the new X-Wing designs or whatever group that he certainly might be a part of. It feels like he's going to be maybe one of those, those very charismatic sort of Starfighter pilots. I could easily see Ryan Gosling being one of those characters. But Sean Levy's movies tend to have some, no pun intended, but levity to them, in the sense of really having a great balance of humor, heart, some really fun action, and some decent kind of storytelling in here. So I am kind of curious as to, one, I would like to see Sean Levy's sort of writing skills bumped up a little bit more, or storytelling bumped up a little bit more. I hope it doesn't feel like just simple cookie cutter stuff, but I would like to see. At the time period is really interesting to me. We haven't explored sort of this era. We haven't really been past anything past episode number 9, and I think Ryan Gosling's a really great actor. I have a lot of fun with the movies that he's in, whether if it's something like um the Fall Guy, where he got to use his humor chops a little bit, or we get something a little bit more serious from him, like Drive, which is an incredible film, or maybe we get a little musical aspect of him from like La La Land in here somewhere. I don't know, but his range is really incredible, and I think the caliber of having Ryan Gosling attached to this and reading the script and wanting to immediately be a part of it, I think does say something about the script itself and his enthusiasm to be a part of this. They have had people turn down the other roles. I've heard from some of the other reports that have come up as they're trying to do some casting for one of the female leads in here. Mickey Madison, who just came off of an Oscar win from Honora, wind up turning down a role in this movie. I don't know if a second person has turned it down at all, but I do know that casting is currently under develop is currently happening right now. So I do think this movie is certainly going to happen, and I'm excited to have somebody like a Sean Levy helm a Star Wars project, because it might be one of those projects that feel like it's very really inclusive for everybody, kind of hits all quadrants that you want when it comes to movie theater, something that's family friendly. You bring maybe your kids to, or whatever the case may be. And I think Sean Levy can certainly make movies like that. So I'm kind of excited to learn, hopefully, a little bit more about this. But yeah, I like the presentation that they wind up giving. Marceline says people are saying Ryan Gosling treats fans the right way by thanking them and how actors should treat them. They contrast this with how John Boyega treats the fans. I think that's a little bit unfair. I think that's really unfair, because John Boyega was very much the Ryan Gosling in regards to appreciation when he was first announced. Okay, when him and the rest of the cast come out to Star Wars Celebration upon the announcement of Force Awakens, I mean, they gushed. Okay, they gushed about the fans, they gushed about the opportunities. So I think it's really unfair in hindsight to view the shit that John Boyega has had to go through during his time, compared to where Ryan Gosling is at his time here in Star Wars. And I would still say John Boyega is very much probably great to the fans. I'm sure if he goes to a Star Wars Celebration, I'm sure he's got nothing but great things to say. But I'm sorry if some fans are butthurt because they feel like he's attacking them in some aspects, when in regards he's just talking about a small quadrant of fans. But if they want to feel personally attacked, that says more about them than it does about John Boyega personally. But he does not treat all his fans like that. So I think that's a little bit dishonest in regards to how some people want to contrast the two of Ryan Gosling and John Boyega. Because when John Boyega came on stage for The Force Awakens, trust me when I say, this man loved the opportunity. He loved the opportunity to be in Star Wars and gushed about it all the time. You can go back and I think even rewatch his reaction with his dad. Do you remember that, Stuart, years ago?
Yes. When I remember that interview where he talked about expressing it to his dad, and then his dad's like, "I'm so proud of you. What Star Wars?"
Yeah. Or even there's a video of him watching himself in the trailer for the first time, and he goes flipping over the couch or some shit like that out of pure excitement. So John Boyega's been always welcoming to the fans. Let's not get it twisted in the sense of him calling out a small quadrant of fans to how he treats every fan in Star Wars, because that's not the case. These are two completely different things. But yeah, Ryan Gosling is really excited to be a part of Star Wars, and I can't blame him.
Yeah, I look at it the same way with Mandla Stenberg, where she made a video much like John Boyega. Just they never said all Star Wars fans. They never said it they were talking about Star Wars fans as a whole. It's they were specifically talking about a very specific type of Star Wars fan. And so my whole thing is that it's if you get offended by those videos, like you said, that really says more about you than anything else.
Yeah, because I watched them. I'm I know they ain't talk about my ass. So
yeah.
I got no problem. I got no problem with it. He says, please make Ryan Gosling an alien. I want a non-human looking alien to the main character of this movie. Man, Marcelino, look at this face. Look at his face.
You're not gonna hire someone like Ryan Gosling and cover him in alien makeup.
this guy. Yeah, you're not gonna cover that face up, man. I wouldn't mind if they did some interesting designs maybe to his forehead or his ears, or little subtleties that he's an alien with more humanistic aspects. But I understand we definitely do need more aliens in Star Wars, at least maybe aliens as a main lead. I think that would be pretty cool. He says, I want Rey to make a cameo, and that hints at the Rey movie. I do too. I know that they highly imply that this is meant to be an original story with original characters, and I'm all there for it. But I do want some level of Rey cameo in here, whether it's an actual cameo and she's got a part to play, or it's HoloNet news report dropping, or just a name drop or something. I need to have her have some impact in this movie, or mention at least. But that wasn't the only announcement that we wind up getting. For those of you who have been fans of the Star Wars Visions, Volume 3 has officially been announced. I think we've talked about it being announced, but it actually has an official release date, October 29th, 2025. We did get an official release date, October 29th, 2025. Mark your calendars in here. But not only that, Stuart, but they also announced a spin-off from Star Wars Visions, which I found really fascinating in here. I wasn't quite sure if this was going to be like a series or a film, an animated film. But let's go ahead and dive into this article here and see if we can get further insight. This comes to us from StarWars.com. Volume 3 release date and a new Star Wars Vision spin-off series is what it says. It says today at Star Wars Celebration, an exciting announcement came out of the Star Wars Visions Volume 3 panel. They revealed a release date for the 9 new Star Wars shorts, October 29th. He also announced an all-new spin-off series of longer stories from Star Wars Visions. He invited the Ninth Jedi writer and director Kenji Kameyama to the stage, who thanked the audience for being so supportive and enthusiastic about the adventures of Kara and Juru in The Ninth Jedi and the upcoming Child of Hope. He then announced that fans will watch Kara's journey continue to unfold in an all-new spin-off called Star Wars Visions Presents The Ninth Jedi. I believe this is an image from The Ninth Jedi, too, if I'm not mistaken. He says, I made a short story called The Ninth Jedi during Volume 1. Director Shiotani is making one more film this time called The Child of Hope, and it ends with Kara's departure to look for her father in the first short film. The Night Jedi features lightsabers that change colors depending on one's force, according to Kameyama, and that Kara's father invented these lightsabers and has been kidnapped. What in the world was the reason for such lightsabers? Kameyama continues. I think it will be a story where those secrets will be told. So yeah, it says it's a new spin-off series, but it sounds like they may be, in a sense, feature length, in a sense of like, because he also mentions the concept of like a film in there somewhere. So it may be the idea of like telling these stories, but in a broader form instead of just a short. How do you feel about this, Stuart? First of all, how have you liked? I haven't watched all the Star Wars Visions as of yet, but there is a part of me that really wants to just go down the rabbit hole and just like binge watch seasons 1 and 2 again. How do you feel about Star Wars Visions as a whole, what it means to Lucasfilm? And then how do you like the idea of them expanding this into longer form storytelling for some of these stories?
So, I grew up on the comic book series called Star Wars Tales, and it was
Ah,
basically Star Wars Legends before Star Wars Legends was a thing, is the best way to describe it. And because, it's an anthology comic book series taking place through all different timelines of the Star Wars universe, but these stories were oftentimes clearly not canon. Some of them had different tones because you'd have some that take themselves very seriously, and then you would have some that were just goofy and comedies. And I love these comic books. And that's what I love about Star Wars Visions. It's basically just that, but like kind of more in an anime form. Some of these stories that we get in Star Wars Visions are so great. I think they could actually work on their own as either like a TV show or an
yeah,
individual movie. The Ninth Jedi was definitely one of those. It's timeline wise, it's so disconnected from anything going on with the current timeline of Star Wars, or anything that's been established in like actual Disney canon of Star Wars, that like you could have the series go on. And I know that these series aren't meant to be canon with the show, but I think what works about the Ninth Jedi is, canon or not, it's so disconnected timeline wise that it really doesn't matter. It can be canon if you want it to be, basically. And yeah, I just think the setup that they had for it at the beginning was so interesting. There's a really cool twist. Basically, I don't want to spoil just in case people haven't seen this episode, but there's a really cool twist at the very end of it that really sets up like something that could work as a series. I didn't think we would get a spinoff of this because I thought they were really committed to the anthology format, which it seems like they are because we're still getting season 3 of Star Wars Visions. I just never imagined any of them getting their own series. And if it is going to be any of them, I'm really glad it was The Ninth Jedi. I know there was another one people wanted where it took place on kind of the Alderaan looking planet. I can't remember the name of it, but we follow it like this Jedi who's kind of a rabbit looking person. In fact, my fiance actually has her lightsaber. She actually kind of ordered a custom lightsaber to look just like hers. So it was a great short. Don't get me wrong. But I think Ninth Jedi was kind of my favorite in the first season. So I'm glad this is the one getting the spinoff, if it was going to be any of them. The one thing I find weird, though, about the release date for season 3 is that for a while, it seems like we had this really cool pattern going on where one year we were getting Tales of the something, because in the first year it was Tales of the Jedi. The next year was Star Wars Vision Season 1. And then the year after that, Tales of the Sith. And then the year after that, Vision Season 2. And I thought we were going to continue that pattern, but it looks like they're just kind of like, nah, we got both of them ready. We might as well release both of them the same year this time.
Yeah, I hope it's something that they continue to do. I do like the concept of both the Tales of series and Visions. And yeah, I hope that they continue Visions too in regards to it just being the anthology side of things. And then a select few getting that opportunity to certainly grow. So yeah, look forward to the Ninth Jedi, guys. It seems as though there's going to be plenty more to certainly come. Shout out to Johnny. What's up, Johnny? Good to see you in here, man. Thank you so much for certainly joining us here today. What else came out of Star? Oh, you know what else came out of Star Wars? And I don't think I put up. Let me see. Do I have this graphic real quick? More on the animation front here. Because Star Wars just loves their animation. We can't get an animated series. But we wind up getting Star Wars Maul wind up revealing the Shadow Lord. The brand new report from Variety says Star Wars Darth Maul animated series is coming to Disney Plus next year. Sam Witwer is returning to voice the villain. It says the new series is titled Maul Shadow Lord, was announced at this year's Star Wars celebration in Tokyo on Friday with Witwer on hand. He has previously voiced Maul several times. It says Lucasfilm CCO Dave Filoni and VP of Animation Athena Portello revealed a surprise sneak peek at the show during a panel spotlighting 20 years of Lucas animation. The final shot of the video celebrating the anniversary appeared to be from the Maul series. It says during the panel after the announcement, they said we can expect to learn a lot about Maul in the series. Unfortunately, I can't tell you too much, but what I can say is Sam Witwer's involvement in the show has been pristine. I'm very excited about him being able to review the scripts and provide input in all of that as well. Dave Filoni and Sam created the character for animation, so it's very important to hear his thoughts as well for the character depth. Witwer also revealed that the series takes place about a year after Clone Wars, so he's dusting himself off a bit after Ahsoka kicked him to the curb. We also learned some different things about his characters. He's got some different traits that you wouldn't necessarily think he has that make perfect sense for what he's been through. So it looks like they're going to be exploring Darth Maul from his between the Clone Wars period and when we see him again in Rebels, which I think is a pretty significant time period for the reveal of Maul here and all the stuff that he's been through. So, you know, I'm curious. How do you feel about this one, Stuart? Are you ready for more Maul stories to be told? Or are you at this point like, man, this is a character that we've seen so much about, like I'm done with it?
I think if it was any other timeline, I would have felt that. But I think that like that gap between Clone Wars and Solo: A Star Wars Story, that's kind of the biggest missing link that we currently actually, sorry, there's a little bit more of a missing link between Solo and Rebels. But the bigger one that I'm interested in is the one between Clone Wars and Solo, because yeah, he was kind of like left with nothing at the very end of Star Wars: The Clone Wars. So I am very curious to see how he writes rises back up to power after, and he does it in the shadows to avoid the Emperor, because for a fact, if the Emperor were to find Maul, Maul, I don't think he would take Maul as a prisoner at this point. So I am really curious to see how he does that, how he's able to rise to power, but still remain kind of in the shadow, being able to control all these crime syndicates while still staying out of the Emperor's peripheral vision, in a manner of speaking. So I think that could that alone makes for a really cool concept for a series. And then of course, Sam Witmore.
Whitwer.
Well, Whitwer, yeah, I love his voice as Maul. I think that he really brought him the other guy that played him in Phantom Menace did a great job. Don't get me wrong, but I mean, I think his voice really just gave him so much depth to the character. Just really kind of made him feel like more than just kind of a really cool looking Sith. Like it really added so many layers. So I cannot wait. I've also been really intrigued by what people are saying from the clips that they showed of it, where the art style looks very much like the Bad Batch in Clone Wars until it gets to the fights, and the fights feel more like I think it was described as kind of a Japanese water painting coming to life.
Oh, that sounds pretty cool. That sounds pretty. I am at the point though where I'm cool with the idea of this series happening. I have no problems with it, but I do want other animated series in the sense of I'm open for the idea of new art styles. I know that we've gotten, I will say the Star Wars Resistance series, I did not care for that art style. I did not. I think it was atrocious. I do like the Star Wars Visions and the idea of several different production studios getting an opportunity to showcase. That's cool and all, but I really would like a long form Star Wars animated series with just a different style. I just need a different style. Everything just feels the same to me, and I think that's what's starting to get to me more than anything. I don't have a problem with them revisiting some of the characters, but when they use the same art style over and over, it starts to feel like the same thing over and over again. And I just really wish that they would switch it up in some capacity. But if the fight sequences are like what they refer to, at least that does sound kind of refreshing.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I almost wonder if Resistance is the reason that they're afraid to try new art styles, because they're
Could be.
well, we tried it once and people didn't like it. It's yeah, because it wasn't good. That
It
doesn't mean we
wasn't
don't want
good.
to. Yeah, that doesn't mean we don't want to see you try to do another one. Don't
Yeah.
give up. Don't just
Yeah.
be no one complained about Clone Wars. We'll do that again.
Yeah, absolutely. And then after that, one of the things that did emerge after the Star Wars Celebration, or at least maybe at the tail end of it, Hayden Christensen came out because he's going to be actually appearing in Ahsoka season 2. But apparently for Hayden Christensen, Stuart, that's not enough. Not to say that that's not enough for him. I'm sure he's more than pleased about the idea of doing something for Ahsoka season 2. But Hayden Christensen himself says, I kind of want to do more, guys. I kind of want to do more. And this is from comicbook.com and an exclusive. It says Hayden Christensen teases rich stories for Darth Vader still to come after Revenge of the Sith. Hayden Christensen senses great stories in Darth Vader. Ahead of the 20th anniversary of Revenge of the Sith, where Christensen's Anakin Skywalker succumbed to the dark side of the Force, rising for the first time as Sith Lord Darth Vader, the actor announced at Celebration that the Jedi will return once more in Season 2 for live-action series in Ahsoka. He says, there's not much that I can share, but Anakin will be back for Season 2, Christensen confirmed during a panel. Anakin previously returned in the first season as a Force ghost within the worlds between worlds, appearing before former apprentice Ahsoka 5 years after his redemptive death aboard the Death Star 2 in Return of the Jedi. It says, while it remains to be seen what's in store for Sky Guy and Snips in Ahsoka Season 2, Anakin Skywalker actor hopes to once again don Darth Vader's armor and revisit the post-Revenge of the Sith era of the Star Wars galaxy. He says, there's a lot we can still explore with Vader. Christensen told Comic Book about Anakin's dark side. I think from where we left off after episode 3 and everything that he has to reconcile with after he's trapped in this new version of himself, there's just a lot of very rich story that we could tell. And then they do talk about him reuniting with Obi-Wan in the 6th episodes of the Obi-Wan series set between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope, which, regardless of how you feel about that show, I thought the stuff that we wind up getting between those two characters were incredible, especially the fight sequences and just the emotional impact it had. He says, I love the character and I'd love to get to continue with it. And so hopefully we'll get to do more of it. So,
Yeah.
yeah, Hayden Christensen is up for more Darth Vader stories, Stuart.
Yeah, I think it's really cool because, man, I remember, kind of like, and I'd be lying if I said I wasn't kind of guilty of it to an extent, like of being one of the people that kind of made fun of the performance that he gave in the prequels. But it's like funny because this is a guy who, so many fans have given so much crap to, for ruining their favorite villain. Sorry, quote unquote, ruining their favorite villain. But I'm so glad that he didn't like hold that he didn't like use that to like resent Star Wars, that he still loves Star Wars and that he still loves coming back to the role, and that he was able to overcome such the toxic fandoms and being able to like look at the more positive aspects of the fandom of the Star Wars fans, and be able to come back and basically appreciate being appreciated by the fans that actually did care about his performance, that actually did care about the Star Wars prequels. Yeah, I think it's fantastic he's coming back. I gave a lot of crap about his acting in the prequels, but I also will say that it wasn't because like I think he was a bad actor. I will say it was just because the prequel dialogue at times was just really awkward, and it's
Really
like,
cringy.
exactly. And I don't think anyone could have given that a good performance. And we kind of see that, like, in Ahsoka with his little bit of screen time that we got. We also see it a little bit in Obi-Wan in that flashback that we get of him. He is a good actor, and he really does feel like he's embraced the Vader side of Anakin Skywalker now. Anytime he's kind of come back in his role as Anakin Skywalker. So I do really look forward to seeing more of him. I am very curious if when we see him in Ahsoka, if it's going to be once again as kind of a Force Ghost vision, or if we're actually going to see him like through flashbacks, kind of similar to how we saw him in Ahsoka. Either way would be pretty fantastic for me, because on the one hand, it would be kind of cool to see the more wiser Anakin, the one who has, made these terrible mistakes, but has hopefully learned from them, and hopefully, all he can do is atone and guide the next generation so that they don't create another Sith Lord the same way he did, the same way his son ends up doing later too. Yeah, I do look forward to seeing like that kind of dynamic if that's what we get, or if we only get flashbacks, I'm cool with that too, because I really loved, even though it was so brief, I loved seeing Hayden Christensen in that Clone Wars outfit. So if we get more of that, more Clone Wars flashbacks, I am all for it.
Yeah, I'm really hoping it's a little bit of both. I do like the idea of him being able to atone for everything that he did and helping kind of guide the new generation. I think what you said really works for me. So that's definitely an aspect that I want to see. But I have a feeling Dave Filoni will give us a little bit of both come Ahsoka season 2. But I do love the idea that he wants to do more Darth Vader stuff. I rewatched this clip from Obi-Wan Kenobi series of the final battle where Obi-Wan apologizes to him and he says, "I'm sorry, Anakin." And this is during the battle when like half his helmet has been kind of cracked. So you see Darth Vader on one side, you see the inside of Anakin, and he looks at Obi-Wan and he says, "You didn't kill Anakin Skywalker, I did." And then the mood just completely changes, and I'm like, that's the Anakin Skywalker story that I need to see now. And the fact that he knows that there's a lot of meat on that bone still of a Darth Vader story that needs to be told. I'm right there with him. I know people are like, look, Darth Vader is the holy grail. You do not touch this man. Like do not expand on this guy in any way, especially based off of the route in which some of the Star Wars television series have been going. But I'm telling you, there is a story there to be told, a really fascinating and incredible one. if done right, if you can get yourself a really great filmmaker to certainly come in, a great writer to certainly come in and mine this stuff. I've talked about this book before in regards to great Star Wars novels. Lords of the Sith is a fantastic one that explores this very, very story. They've got something to adapt, that they want to adapt a story that focuses on Anakin and his own personal struggles of Darth Vader kind of getting rid of that side of him, or just to kind of see that light side and dark side of Anakin's just kind of fighting with each other in this transformation into Darth Vader, along with his relationship with Palpatine. That's the stuff that I want to see. After rewatching Revenge of the Sith this past week, that's continues to be the stuff that I love out of Revenge of the Sith is Anakin and Palpatine's relationship and the manipulation that winds up happening. I want to see that unfold a little bit more. Not so much in the film, but I would love a long form series. I think the comic book writer Charles Soule, who also did some Star Wars novels, he's done an incredible run on a Darth Vader comic book series. I would love him to be like a creative consultant in some way, get Peter Hidalgo involved in here also, and then just find a really great writer, because I do think that there's a ton of great stuff to certainly mine for Hayden Christensen. I mean, this is a guy who was frowned upon for years, was hated upon for years because of his performance, and he's come back into the fold, and he now wants to do more stuff. Give him more stuff. Give him more stuff. If Hayden Christensen wants to do more stuff, if Ewan McGregor wants to do more stuff, make sure that you are getting top-notch writers to come on board to do this stuff. Just don't get anybody's name because they want to do a series or a movie, but get somebody that knows what they're doing to really flesh out this character a little bit more. And I say, give it to me. I feel like I am very much in the minority of wanting this, and I don't blame people whatsoever, but I do think that there's a level of storytelling that would really be missed out if we don't explore while we have Hayden Christensen in this particular role, Stuart. I think it'd be a missed opportunity, man.
Yeah. You know, it'd be kind of cool. I don't think this would ever happen because I feel like now there's been too much already established between episodes 3 and 4. But you know what? Why don't we finally make the Force Unleashed canon? You know, make a whole series about that.
Yeah, I know people have been asking about that for quite some time. Speaking about new television series too, this information just dropped here earlier this week too, that there is a new Star Wars series in the works currently. I do find it interesting that we had the Hayden Christensen story saying, I need more stuff to do. And then literally the day after that exclusive report comes out, Hollywood Reporter says Star Wars series from Carlton Cuse and Nick Cuse in the works. It says the father and son duo are working on a mysterious series. It says prolific Lost showrunner Carlton Cuse is taking a journey into Star Wars galaxy with his son. The duo is in early development on a Star Wars series for Lucasfilm. So there's really no other further details about it is being kept under wraps, but this does come right off the heels of Andor Season's 2 debut, along with Star Wars Celebration. So again, early development. This series could or could not happen. When it's in early development, it looks like it's very much at early stages, probably writing out scripts to see if anything really kind of sticks before they move on to the next aspect of the developmental process. But I did find it interesting that right after Hayden Christensen says, I want to do more stuff, they're like, hey, by the way, guys, we do have ourselves a brand new series that might potentially be in the works. I don't know what it could be, but I'm keeping my fingers crossed. I love Lost. I think Lost is a brilliant show. I know it doesn't work for everybody. I think that's more of a case of, I think they had a story to certainly tell, and they wanted to tell it in a certain amount of seasons, but the popularity of it grew so much that there are stories that ABC shareholders and like the people at ABC were like, you need to make this series longer. We need more of it. And it really hurt itself by extending itself as long as it did. But I think people are, after all these years, are coming to appreciate the ending for Lost, which I personally thought when I watched it, I thought they stuck the landing. I really personally loved the landing when they first originally dropped it back years ago. So I've always been a really big proponent and fan of Lost. So if we're getting Carlton Cuse to kind of work on a Star Wars project, I'm definitely going to give it an opportunity. But make no mistake, early development in here. This may not ever see the light of day, but a part of me continues to hope. Please be a Star Wars series. Please be a Darth Vader series. Please be a Darth Vader series. But yeah, Stuart, just my thoughts.
Unlike the movies, whenever a show gets announced, I actually do have a little bit of hope because like those actually tend to go through.
Yeah, those usually tend to kind of come into some level of actual development and turn into something. Um, and then last but not least, Stuart, one of the things that just came our way a couple days ago, which I found kind of interesting. You know, one of the most successful directors I think that we've had when it comes to The Mandalorian has been Bryce Dallas Howard. I think a lot of people have been really pleased with her work in regards to what she's been capable of doing. And people have been saying, look, give this woman her own series, give this woman her own Star Wars feature movie. I think people would love to see her in the director's chair. And it seems as though Bryce Dallas Howard wants to do that also. And believe it or not, Stuart, she's got an idea. She's got an idea, and that involves the return of Samuel L. Jackson as Mace Windu. That's right. Look, don't take my word for it. Take Bryce Dallas Howard's word for it, as she had the opportunity to sit down shortly after Star Wars Celebration and give some insight in regards to what I don't know if this would be her first thing that she would tackle, but I find it interesting that she brings this up as an example of something that she would certainly want to do. It says the Star Wars director who could bring back Samuel L. Jackson's Mace Windu. It says, could Samuel L. Jackson return as a seemingly dead, but maybe not really dead Jedi Mace Windu in a future Star Wars project? Well, anything could happen, but will it happen? That's the better question. It says, Jackson has expressed a strong interest and desire to reprise his role. Now it seems Bryce Dallas Howard has at least explored the idea of doing something with this long-standing idea. It says one recent episode of Happy, Sad, Confused podcast, Howard touched on the idea of possibly directing a Star Wars movie. It says, she says, I would always say yes, Howard said when pressed about whether or not she's spoken with the brass at Lucasfilm about such a thing. Speaking further about her directing career more generally, Howard said that Sam Jackson has been incredibly supportive of me and has told me many times that he would act in something that I directed. And they say that's when things got interesting. Howard revealed, where did it go? See this? Come on, don't do this to me. Howard revealed that she actually spoke with Lucasfilm Dave Filoni about Mace Windu's official status within the franchise. She says, and then I went straight to Dave. And I was like, so let's just talk about Mace Windu and where he is. Can we just talk about this? Because is he dead? Is he? And he says, to be crystal clear, at this moment in time, nothing is in development. Howard was very emphatic during the interview that she couldn't speak about anything that may or may not happen in the future. We also don't know what Filoni had said about Windu. Just because Jackson said she thinks he's alive doesn't mean that he actually is. Even so, it's a fun idea to explore. Stuart, I have been a big proponent, and I even made a video about this, that I do think Mace Windu is alive. Look, I am one of those people that are like, look, man, if I don't see the body, he's not dead. Okay. If I don't, I have to see the body to certainly believe so. I mean, the man was electrocuted into pure barbecue and thrown out of a skyscraping building in Coruscant. How somebody could survive that, I don't know, but it's Mace freaking Windu. If anybody can, it's this man. So I am curious about whether or not Windu is alive or not. But the fact that Bryce Dallas Howard even has this question is fascinating to me, because it sounds like she would be open to it. So my question to you, Stuart, is Mace Windu alive, or is he dead? And if he is alive, would you like to see Bryce take a shot at this one?
Yes. You know what? I'm going to say this. He's dead until he isn't. And that's kind of how I feel about, just canon and continuity and Star Wars in general. Like, I know they say that if you don't see a body, then they're not really dead. I kind of look at it as they are dead until they're not, For me, I kind of hope he is alive. I hope that we can get this series. And the other thing, I hope he's not the same Mace Windu from the prequels. And not because I love Mace Windu in the prequels and in the Clone Wars, but I kind of hope that a moment like this, maybe a mixture of trauma, mixture of like kind of just, devastation, feeling of failure, completely breaks him. And then we can get, Samuel Jackson, like a more Samuel Jackson version of the character, if that makes sense. Like him kind of like acting more in his kind of like, kind of more in a somewhat crazier manner, if that makes sense, for the character. So something that would be very out of character for Mace Windu, but something that, Samuel Jackson could really pull off. And it would make sense for it to be out of character for him, because at that point, after getting electrocuted, hands cut off, thrown out of a building, and then I think possibly blinded from like the lights, I think you could even add that in there if you really want to make things extra tragic for him. I don't imagine this being the same Mace Windu we saw at the end of Revenge of the Sith. I imagine this being a very different man, especially if we end up doing like a time jump later and we see that he's been, in hiding like most Jedi have, during the events of during the events after the Clone Wars. I look forward to this. That's just an idea that I had. There are probably a million other directions you can go with this character if he's still alive. That's just where I would personally go. And I'd love to have a scene exploring like his regrets, like specifically with Yoda, like a scene between the two of them both wondering like what they could have done to prevent this, if they could have prevented it, and then maybe even coming to the conclusion of we wouldn't have been able to prevent it without actually using the tactics of Sith, something like that. So it's like, because I do think that's like kind of one of the really fascinating things about just the way Palpatine kind of took over in general. Like it could have easily been prevented, but to prevent it, you would have to use tactics of your enemies. And that's something that the Jedi just wouldn't do. And that's something I find just, kind of fascinating about the whole, prequel trilogy. So I think there's just so much that you can explore there. So I hope this series happens. I hope a series with Mace Windu happens. Even if he's not the main character, I still feel like there's some story to tell with his character.
One of the things that first off, I love all your ideas. I personally do think that he is alive. I don't know if it could be a case of that they consider him dead, which is why they haven't done anything with it, or they've been really hush hush about it. Because, like you said, maybe he's dead until proven otherwise. I don't know if Dave Filoni has been sitting on this secret in the sense of like, yes, he's alive, but hasn't done anything with this character in all these years. So I do wonder if that is the case, if he is technically dead, but they have no problem bringing him back if there's a compelling story to tell. And I hope that there is a compelling story to certainly tell here. I think there is one. If anything, I would say absolutely. If Bryce Dallas Howard wants to direct a Star Wars film, I would want to take this as a one-off film. They have talked about the idea of doing a little bit more standalone Star Wars movies that eventually, maybe they will eventually get back to the episodic stuff. But if they are open to doing more standalone stories, I think Mace Windu film could do really great as sort of a one-off also. So I would not be opposed to that. I don't know if I would want Bryce writing it. I think if anything, maybe find another writer. I personally would like an African American writer for this one, just to be able to tap into Samuel L. Jackson just a little bit deeper, honestly, and have Bryce be the director for it. I would be completely open to that. But if Samuel L. Jackson wants to do one, and he has been very vocal for the longest time about doing one, he's definitely pulling the strings of using his power in Hollywood to try and get what he needs here. Because not only is he talking openly about like telling Lucasfilm, I want to do it, but also be like, Bryce, come on, let's do something. Like, let's go. If he's being the main cheerleader for this, I don't see why we shouldn't do something along this lines. I think it would be great to revisit him in the sense that I agree with you, Stuart. I don't want him to be necessarily the same person. I want this to be a battered, a bruised, I don't want to say his ego, but somebody that's living with resentment, questioning some of his decisions, what he could have done better. I want to see this man like burned or scarred or lost an eye or something. Like I really want to see a beaten and disheveled sort of Mace Windu have to not only go into hiding but also rebuild his life in a certain extent. Does he tap into the Force? Like, has he kind of given up his ways of being a Jedi? Like, I want to see an older Mace Windu in here, or someone shortly after what happened and kind of given up and deciding to maybe fight in other ways or teach another force sensitive being that maybe comes across his way. In my head, I envision the idea of Mace Windu having really just found a life for himself, maybe even settled down and started a family in some regards. Like, even though he's no longer a Jedi, seeing the Empire kind of fall around him, maybe he has grown an attachment to somebody and he creates sort of like his own lineage. There's something that just popped in my head that I personally would really like to see. And I know we get tired of like connecting future characters to past characters in that sense, but I wouldn't mind the idea of like, if they tease the concept of Finn being force sensitive, maybe he's like a grandchild of Mace Windu and he doesn't know about it. Finn was taken away from his family when he was 3 years old to become a stormtrooper. He doesn't talk about his family. I don't think he remembers who his family is. Maybe like Palpatine, if Palpatine can have grandchildren, maybe Mace Windu in some respect can have grandchildren, and maybe Finn is connected to him in some place, and that's where his force abilities kind of come from in secret. But even if they didn't want to go that route, I think there is something about just the emotional struggle, the contemplation of how everything turned out for the Jedi, Mace Windu being a part of that. Should he have trusted Anakin a little bit more? Should he have approached him differently? Like, I agree with you. I think there's a lot of like second guessing that Mace can certainly go through, but I would like to see a battered and disheveled Mace Windu try and navigate his life and maybe teach an up and coming Jedi or somebody that's on a run and bump into them, sort of thing. But my thing has always been, at the end of the series, at the end of the film, I do want Mace Windu to be killed off. I don't want him to be like, oh, he survived out until the Return of the Jedi. No, I don't need any of that. I just need one more story of Mace Windu to certainly be told, for him to redeem himself in some capacity, to make something right within the galaxy in some sense or another. I just think I've read a Mace Windu novel before Disney made it Legends, which was super compelling. I think you can have some really great flashback moments of his training. I agree with you. I think the idea of him maybe tapping into force ghosts and talking to other characters would be interesting too. I just think that there is one solo story left to tell, but I could be wrong here, but we'll see what happens, man. But I hope it comes to fruition in some capacity.
Mm-hmm. Definitely agree.
Cody's like, no, please, God, no. But yeah, it's each their own. But I think the fact that Bryce has been talking about this, Sam has been talking about this, I think he's got enough. I'm hoping he's got enough pull to certainly make it happen if there's a good and compelling story out there to be told. But I have no problem if people want him to certainly stay dead. But I just think Samuel L. Jackson's such a good actor that I think, given a really good script, I think he can make something compelling here.
Yeah, I think like at the end of the day, what it comes down to is I just hope there's like actually a good story to be told.
Yeah,
if they're going to go through with it.
Yeah, don't do it just for doing its sake. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't do it just because somebody asks you to do it. But if there is a really good story that you think you can tell as an individual story or individual movie or a limited series or something like that, I would be open to it. But yeah, guys, let us know your thoughts. Star Wars Celebration. What did you enjoy from it? What did you take away from it? Anything that we missed from the recap that you guys were big fans of that certainly got announced? Please go ahead and let us know your thoughts in the comment section box below. And Stuart, with that out of the way, let's move on to our next topic here. As we've talked about this franchise before, and that is in fact the Predator franchise. I think it was just last week or the week before we talked about the animated film that was going to be coming out from Predators titled Killer of Killers. We also talked about the idea that that's not the only project that Dan Trachtenberg had been working on in secret. He's also been developing the brand new film Predator Badlands. And this past week, Stuart, we finally got the opportunity to see the teaser trailer of this project, as he's been really highly talking about this one. Have you? I'm assuming you've had the opportunity to check out this trailer, Stuart.
Oh yes.
Let's go ahead and check it out one more time for people that haven't had the opportunity to see the trailer for themselves. This is, in fact, the Predator Badlands trailer. Let's go ahead and check this one out.
I didn't think you survived.
So it's coming out this year.
You're hunting something that can't be killed.
Oh, damn. You know, I will say, Stuart, it's fascinating watching this and some of our early predictions about what this movie could be when they announced Predator Badlands. I was like, is this in the Badlands of the United States? Like, is this like a different time period that we're going to be visiting again? I was completely wrong in that regard. So this is very much a futuristic sort of Predator film here, where it seems like it's following maybe a younger predator as he's going through some sort of maybe trials or hunting, being pushed, left on some like hunting ground to kind of prove himself, it looks like. What did you think about the first preview here?
Yeah, because when I saw it was going to be by the director of Prey, I think I was expecting it to be a Prey sequel, honestly. I didn't know what they were going to be doing with it, but then like kind of like looking at it, it just kind of feels like another reboot to the series, kind of like the last Predator movie that they did, and then even the Predator movie they did before that with Predators. It kind of feels like every time we get another Predator movie, it almost feels like a another Predator remake, and that's kind of or not remake, sorry, but kind of a reboot to the franchise of maybe we'll start taking the franchise in this direction now. And I think this is a really cool. This is a cool concept if this is how you want to kind of reboot it, like just go full on sci-fi with it. I think it definitely looks incredible in terms of its visuals. And I do like that, again, they're kind of doing something very new with the Predator IP. I hope if this movie does well, if it does well along with the Hulu miniseries that we got coming out, I do kind of hope that the future of the Predator franchise, we can still continue this thing of having both, like, a Predator that maybe is kind of like the mainline franchise and maybe they stick to the more hardcore sci-fi aspect of it, whereas like the other kind of things that we get, like we can still get like other spin-offs of Predator that maybe take place during different time periods, like we got with Prey, like we're getting with the upcoming Predator miniseries as well. So I do think there's a world out there where we can get both. I also kind of wonder, with this one being sci-fi and taking place a little bit into the future, is if they're trying to set up another Alien versus Predator movie at some point, one where it's like where they just like subtitle it "Third Time's the Charm."
I do like that. I do like that concept. I think for me, when I a couple things when I watched this trailer. First, I do want to take you back to the very beginning here. Some people are saying two things in regards to like the expansion of this universe. Some people are saying if you look in the very middle of the skulls here, that the one in the middle might be the alien from Alien Independence, the Independence Day alien. Which
Oh,
which would be pretty badass if that is in fact the case, if that's like a little bit of an Easter egg to kind of show the, the expansion of this universe and its connectivity. And then they also uh Ellie Fanning's character in here. Let me see if I can pull it up. She goes into this mode here, kind of revealing herself to be an android. And some people are saying that I believe if you zoom in on her, there's the logo of the same company that does the androids for the Alien franchise, as well. So they're suggesting that they are implying that yes, the Alien and Predator franchise are one and the same in the sense of there is that connectivity in here. So I have seen the W logo in her eyes from if you scan in really closely. So it does seem as though she might be one of those androids that we've seen from the Alien franchise. Also, Stuart, I think that'd be pretty badass if that's true.
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think so too. He says Dakota Fanning, I heard, is playing YN Android. Yeah, I believe it. I believe that the logo and the name of the company is in her eyes as she goes into her Android mode. So yeah, I think that'd be
Wayland, that was the name of it. I don't know. It was on my mind. I'm like, what is it? Wayland.
yeah. But I look, man, I gotta tell you, I'm really excited for this project. I really am. I agree with you. I think they've been able to expand Predators in such a way where you can have the fun of maybe even doing a Prey sequel if you want to, and having other time periods explored, whether that be in live action or in animation form. But I am wondering if Predator Badlands is eventually, like, is it going to be good enough to have a sequel? Is this brand new Predator that we've been introduced to who's going to be sort of like the protagonist? Is this something that we will a character that we might even explore in future Predator films and kind of follow his timeline based off of him being clearly what seems to be sort of like a younger Predator in here? I was really fascinated to see like how would they pull off the idea of using Predator as a protagonist, and it feels like they want us to kind of root for him a little bit, in the sense of maybe the other Predators view him in a certain way, maybe they're challenging him in a certain extent. There seemed to be like, I love the glowing sword that they wind up having in here too. It looked like maybe that was like one of their chieftains or whatever the case may be. So I am curious to see who he's going to be opposed against, the different monsters in this world that he's going to be going up against to kind of prove himself. But I was always kind of questioning, how do you make him into a protagonist? And it seems like him facing off against other monsters, maybe people of his own culture, to kind of earn some level of respect and whatnot, I think should be pretty fascinating to kind of see how they maneuver through that also. And I've even read, Stuart, like, Dan Trachtenberg is a real like Predator nerd. And I mean that in a sense of like he knows this world in the sense of really studying a lot of the expanded universe stuff. And he says they in some of the interviews that I've seen, he's talked about even like building the Predator language, and having to get people that like studied like the Elvish language, and helping kind of like build an entire language around for the Predators. He said that they went exploring in some of the old Predator films and realized that a lot of the stuff that they were just talking about, like when Predators communicate with each other, that is pretty much just made up gibberish, that it doesn't really mean anything. There's not like a Predator library where you can like what they're saying could be really broken down into anything. So he said he brought in linguists and stuff to actually create a language for the Predator species for this particular movie, which I found really fascinating. So it seems like Dan Trachtenberg is doing the work in regards to building up this franchise the correct way. And it seems like they've allowed him to have the creative keys to this franchise for a little bit. And I think if Badlands does well, I think if Killer of Killers does really well, Predators may be on a really great trajectory course, man. I'm really excited to see how these next two projects really turn out and how they're received.
I like, yeah, I do like how after that one dud that they had in theaters after Predators, and I think it was just called The Predator, if I'm not mistaken. What was it? But like after that one, I'm glad that they, after kind of taking a fall from that, they got right back up with Prey, and now they're basically really back to making to really kind of like saying, hey, the Predator franchise isn't going anywhere.
Yeah, that's what it feels like. So we'll see how things turn out. But really great first impression from the Predator Badlands trailer. Definitely going futuristic, making some connections to um, other franchises also. And I'm excited to see what Ellie Fanning and just the relationship between her and this new Predator is certainly going to be like. So I'm excited for it. Coming November of this year, ladies and gentlemen. But let me know your thoughts about the trailer in the comment section box below. And with that, Stuart, out of the way, let's move on to our next topic. And we're going to get into getting back into Stranger Things, as Stranger Things is back in the news here. Look, we are getting ever so close to the final season of Stranger Things being released for us here. I'm definitely having my tissues ready. I've been reading interviews from some of the cast members talking about how devastating this finale is certainly going to be for some of these actors and these characters that they certainly play. So mentally, I'm definitely getting myself prepared. But one of the things that we've kind of talked about over the past couple of months is how, even though the Stranger Things live action series is coming to an end, how the Duffer Brothers have been closely working with Netflix to further expand on this series, on this universe, I should say. They got a couple spinoffs that are currently in the works. And I think we've mentioned this before, or maybe this is our first time that we've mentioned it. But one of the projects that they are working very closely on, Stuart, is in fact an animated series for Stranger Things. And this past week, they finally revealed to us the title for this series. This comes to us from what's on Netflix.com. But here they say Stranger Things Tales from 85. The animated Stranger Things spinoff series reveals its title. It says the Stranger Things universe is expanding, with Netflix announcing a brand new animated spinoff for back in 2023, set in the world of one of the biggest shows in April. Now, 2 years later, the official title has been revealed: Stranger Things Tales from 85. The Duffer Brothers, on behalf of Upside Down Pictures, are involved as executive producers on the untitled animated series, along with Sean Levy and Dan Cohen on behalf of 21 Labs. In a statement on the new project upon its initial announcement, the brothers said, "We've always dreamed of an animated Stranger Things in the vein of the Saturday morning cartoons that we grew up loving. And to see this dream realized has been absolutely thrilling. We couldn't be more blown away by what Eric Robles and his team have come up with. The scripts and artwork are incredible, and we can't wait to share more with you. The adventure continues." So yeah, we've officially have our Stranger Things spin-off series, the animate, or I should say an animated Stranger Things series announced for us. Stranger Things Tales from 85. Stuart, I first off, the year 1985, I am kind of curious as to what year that represents for the Stranger Things series. Is that the beginning of like season 1? Is that in the middle of season 2? Like I've kind of lost track of the years that we're that we're in right now. But it feels like they may be going sort of pretty fresh in regards to the Stranger Thing universe when they're still kind of kids to be told. And I kind of dig the idea of like something in the veins of a Saturday morning cartoons. We haven't had the opportunity to fully see like the animated artwork before. I think this is more fan art that I'm showing right now. I don't believe that this is like them in actual animation form for whatever Eric Robles is certainly working on in his artwork team. But the idea of this, like this alone, Stuart, of like seeing them in animation form kind of gets me a little bit excited. I think they could do a lot more supernatural elements that maybe they couldn't do in live action form that I would kind of like to see come to life. We have a lot of years in which there's some time jumps between a couple of these seasons that I think we could easily have explored if they certainly want to. But the idea of a Stranger Things animated series of these actors or these characters, I should say, when they're in younger stages in this series, I think could be pretty fun. I don't know how long you make something like this. Um, yeah, how many seasons you certainly have these go on for. But if we are going to be doing anything in the sense of revisiting these characters, I think animation form works really better. And I think if they have any other spin-off stuff in mind, I wouldn't mind the idea of more original characters being used in sort of like live action stories that might be told, whether that be in prequel or sequel type of stuff. But if we are going to be keeping with these characters in any capacity when they're younger, and in animated form, for me certainly works. So I do think there are some stories that can certainly be told in between the time gaps that we get in these seasons, though. But that could just be me, Stuart. I mean, I see the animation stuff and I get kind of excited a little bit. But I know some people might be like, look, after season 5, I'm kind of done with Stranger Things. I don't want to revisit this world anymore. How do you feel about that idea? And what do you think about the announcement of, I think we already knew that there was an animated series in the works, but now that we have a title, how are you feeling about things here?
I mean, I would say that I'm not really hyped for this. I will probably give it a watch, like when it comes out, like for the first episode, just to see how it is. But I'm kind of like on the board or on the train of I'm kind of ready for the show to end after season 5. And I really just don't know what kind of stories you can, because I know, like you said, there were definitely time jumps in between seasons at times, but I really don't know what kind of story you can tell at this point with like the events going in between. I do think it's smart doing it in animated form because again, like they're not really even kids anymore. They're now all adults and they're still, playing like young kids, which is pretty funny. So I think that doing it in animated form makes it, easier to suspend your disbelief. So I think that actually is probably, smart for that. But yeah, again, I'm kind of like on the train of I'll watch it. I don't really have that much hype for it. I'm kind of just, I'm ready for the series to end. Or, if we were to get spinoffs, I kind of want to focus on new characters, a different setup within the world of Stranger Things.
Yeah, I certainly don't blame you in that regards. I definitely I feel like this is something I'll certainly give a shot and give a watch for if it when it in fact is released. I do wish the Duffer Brothers were a little bit more than just executive producers, but at least I think that they'll provide good sort of quality control for whatever the script certainly might have when it comes to the animated series. So, and I tend to like a lot of the Netflix animated stuff that does, in fact, kind of get revealed. I think Netflix is pretty good when it comes to their animation stuff. So yeah, it might certainly warrant a view for me, but I definitely gonna have to wait and see a little bit more before I get really hyped for this animated series. But yeah, we'll see. We still have the live action to certainly look forward to, but we officially have a title for the animated series, Stranger Things: Tales from 85. Let us know your thoughts in the comment section box below. Um, and then we got two more topics that we're going to talk about. Stuart, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago when we highlighted I Know What You Did Last Summer. Jennifer Love Hewitt had an interview with People Magazine talking about the reboot itself. And one of the things that I mentioned is I remember that time in my life in like early 96, 97, when you had a franchise like Scream kind of first come out. And it felt like at that particular point in time, when Scream was released, it felt like a new sort of era for horror, maybe slasher films, the beginnings of, if you will. Scream felt really fresh and innovative and new at the time. And then that was followed up with I Know What You Did Last Summer that came out in 1997. I remember vividly seeing those two films. But Stuart, if I could add to that list of like the trifecta of impactful slasher films, maybe I'm not going to hold this film to like the level of I Know What You Did Last Summer or even Scream, but coming off the heels of Scream in regards to like what it produced, I think it did produce some cult following sort of horror films. Not only did Scream lead to something like I Know What You Did Last Summer, but it also had this other gem that I remember. And maybe calling it a gem is overstating things a little bit too much. But as far as like horror films during this time period that kind of stuck in my head, Urban Legend was one of them. I don't remember if at this time when I was in school, maybe I was like studying urban legends or reading about urban legends at the time that made this film like even more enticing for me. But it really came down to the idea of them being like a serial killer out there that would kill people in the form of like how urban legends kind of came to be, and it always made it really fascinating to me. But this movie, I believe, came out in 1998. And it was really right in the vein of like fresh off of Scream and I Know What You Did Last Summer. I don't think I've ever seen this film outside of its debut in theaters, but it had a really great lineup of actors that were really hot, kind of like at that moment in the late 90s. That I think attracted people to seeing this movie in theaters. I think it did relatively well at the box office too. But now that we are in the year 2025, we've had a rehash of Scream finding sort of like its second renaissance. Now we've got a sequel to I Know What You Did Last Summer, and Urban Legend just said, "Hold my beer, guys," because according to the Hollywood Reporter, a movie reboot is in the works. They're going to give this film a shot also, and revitalizing things here for this series. Urban Legend reboot in the works from Gary Dauberman and Neil Moritz. This is an exclusive report. It says Screen Gems 1990s slasher movie Urban Legends is getting a modern era reboot. The Sony Divisions is in early development of a new version of the 1988 feature, hiring Shanra Wakefield to pen the script. And then we have Gary Dauberman, whose video game adaptation Until Dawn opens Friday, will produce via his coin-operated banner. Neil Moritz, who was one of the producers of the original, is in new negotiations to produce as well. It says the original Urban Legend, directed by Jamie Blanks and written by Silvio Horton, was a horror movie set in a New England university that featured a killer whose kills were inspired by popular urban legends of the period, such as death by pop rocks, soft drinks, or being pursued in a car by a gang for flashing it as a reminder to turn on your headlights. The movie featured strong cast of rising names in the late 90s, including Jared Leto, Joshua Jackson, Alicia Witt, Michael Rosenbaum. Tara Reid was in this freaking movie. Rebecca Gayheart. It was a money maker at the time, even if it didn't compare favorably to the other slasher films of the era, particularly Scream and I Know What You Did Last Summer. While plot details are unknown, sources say the story aims to be an examination of what urban legend looks like in a post-digital world. So it says Dauberman, the triple threat behind some of the biggest horror franchises of the past decade, including It, Annabelle, and The Nun, produced and co-wrote Until Dawn, which features. Okay, so he's talking a little bit about Until Dawn, but it's coming back. It's coming back, Stuart. Have you seen Urban Legends at all, Stuart? I think you're muted.
I have not, but as we're talking about this movie, I kind of want to watch it. So I think this will be one of those movies I add to my list of movies to watch in October. Because October is when I love just doing like a horror movie marathon, like almost every day. Like I'm doing like a new horror movie, and then
Nice.
on Halloween itself is when I do like a full on binge marathon. So I definitely think this is one that I'm going to be checking out because it sounds pretty interesting.
Yeah, I would recommend checking it out if you haven't done so yet. Put it on your list. I almost wanted to rewatch it this week before we talked about this again, because it had been a while. But I'm really glad that the article highlighted like all the big names that were involved in this, because I honestly forgot some of the names. I honestly like the whole Jared Leto one. I was like, Jared Leto. I don't even remember Homeboy being in this movie at all. But I'm gonna have to rewatch it because again, I don't think I've seen this film since back in the day, but I kind of dig the concept of like exploring urban legends in sort of like a post digital world that we're in, because I don't hear people talk about urban legends like they used to. It look, guys, the early 2000s and pre 2000s just hit differently, Stuart. You know, like our ghost stories and urban legend stories just hit different. I wonder if there's any post um urban legends right now in this digital era. Do you know of any? Can we
I
look
mean,
this up real quick?
would like creepy pastas kind of be like the modern version of urban legends?
Creepy pasta? What's that?
Oh, it's basically just like kind of horror stories that are usually written out on Reddit or just other kind of social media forms. They're oftentimes told in a kind of POV perspective, usually like to give the illusion that this is based on like something that really happened or something along those lines. It's
Maybe.
where I believe it's where the character Slenderman originated from, was from creepy
Yes.
pastas where they would like Photoshop him in all these old school photographs and go, hey, who is this guy? He just happens to appear in all these photos and that kind of stuff. So I think that would be kind of the modern equivalent.
Yeah, I was just thinking about I was like, what is the name of that character? But yes, Slenderman, I think would be a really good one. I am curious what other kind of current urban legends or more modernized urban legends there might be one.
There's
Ghost Jogger. I see a ghost jogger one here. Modern legend tells stories of a friendly ghost jogger that knocks on people's car windows to say hello. But I guess that's a little bit too friendly. I don't think you can really use that for like one, the licked hand, a scary urban legend popular among teenagers. The story narrates how a killer secretly spends the night under a girl's bed licking her hand when when offered, which the girl thinks is her dog. The girl only finds the truth the following day when she finds her dog is dead in her closet and a bloody message, humans can lick too. Ooh, that would be a good one. That would be a good one.
Yikes.
Arizona skinwalkers. Skinwalkers are said to be people who turned evil and acquired the ability to shapeshift into animals and other people. This native legend is so deeply rooted in Arizona's culture that a Navajo woman was found brutally murdered in 1987. People said only skinwalkers could have done it. We could go the skinwalkers route. Yeah. We've already done the call coming from inside the house. I think that's probably been done in the classic urban legends one also. I think Bloody Mary might have been done in urban legend also. Um, I don't know. I am kind of curious if there are how this movie would tackle, like if there are fresh urban legends that are just now coming to light, or finding legs for themselves to kind of be explored, or if they'll rehash certain things. Or maybe it's like because we're in the digital world, nobody believes in urban legends anymore. Like that's just like that's true folklore for them. They've moved on past that stuff. So I am kind of curious as to how you would tackle something like that for a modern age.
Yeah. I would say that like I would go with the internet kind of urban legends if we're going to like the modern age, and they even bring up the idea of post tech. One you could do, I remember this movie, it was pretty bad, but I think it was based on a real urban legend, so definitely someone in the comments correct me if I'm wrong on this one, but it was called Smiley, and the idea is if you
Hmm.
go on a thing like what was that called, chat roulette, and then you type in "I do it for the lols" 3 times in a row, then the killer appears in behind the other person on camera.
I do it for the lulls, like LOLs.
Yeah.
Oh, damn.
Like you
Okay.
type it 3 times and then the killer appears on the other person's screen.
Okay. I kind of dig that one. I kind of dig that one. I think that could easily be used for a current urban legends. Indy, what's up, Indy? He says, sorry, my daughter's birthday this weekend. Hey, happy birthday to your daughter, man. He says, urban legends are my wheelhouse. Yeah, man. If you have any urban legends, first off, I'm curious, Indy, if you recall watching the urban legend film from back in 1998, and if you think there's any modern day sort of urban legends that might be utilized in a current reboot of that film. I would love to know your thoughts, man. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section box below for sure. But yeah, guys, let us know your thoughts. Urban legend in early development. Will this movie ever get made? We'll definitely have to see. But if I Know What You Did Last Summer could get that opportunity, maybe urban legend can certainly do the same. But yeah, let us know your thoughts in the comment section box below. And with that out of the way, Stuart, we got one last topic. Let's go ahead and dive into this one. And we are going to revisit the world of Chronicles of Narnia. That's right. Netflix is getting ready to go ahead and do a Chronicles of Narnia film, this time tackling the magician's nephew. Not the first book that came out in the Chronicles of Narnia in regards to release order, but The Magician's Nephew is in fact sort of the prequel and the beginning of the Chronicles of Narnia story. Netflix is going to be teaming up with Greta Gerwig to go ahead and give us The Magician's Nephew. And we've had some interesting casting choices that have certainly been floating around in regards to some of these characters in here. We had Daniel Craig's name wind up dropping, which we thought originally it was going to be him playing Aslan, but it seems as though he may in fact be the uncle in this movie for the main character. We have had rumors that Meryl Streep has been offered or been approached to do the role of Aslan, the allegory, if you will, for was it God or Jesus himself as a lion, again, I don't know if that's official as of yet, but we do have a new casting announcement here this week, as it seems as though we might have officially found our White Witch, Stuart. Let me go ahead and pull this up here. This comes to us from the Hollywood Reporter. Oops. Emma McKee, I should say, to star as the White Witch in Greta Gerwig's Narnia. It says the Netflix adaptation reunites the English actress with her Barbie director. I don't remember her being in Barbie, but maybe I just wasn't paying attention enough. The White Witch has been found. British actress Emma Mackey has nabbed the coveted role of the evil spellcaster in Narnia, Greta Gerwig's adaptation of the Chronicles of Narnia fantasy novels. Netflix is backing the adaptation of the books, with Gerwig's feature reportedly tackling the sixth novel of the series, The Magician's Nephew. Gerwig wrote the script and is directing. The casting marks a reunion between Gerwig and Mackey. The latter appeared in the filmmaker's billion-dollar grossing Barbie films. Casting rumors have swirled around the high-profile project for months now. Charlie XCX was at one point tipped for the role of the White Queen, but that proved to be premature. And while many actresses vied for the part, it came down to Mackey and the Substance star Margaret Qualley. So those were the two on the short list that it came down to. Netflix declined to comment on this casting. White Witch, whose name is Jadis, is the primary antagonist of not just Magician's Nephew, but also best known of all the Narnia books, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. She is the one who plunged Narnia into an endless winter where it never ever gets to Christmas. And turns enemies into statues. The project is nascent casting stages. Mackey will join Meryl Streep, who's in talks to play Aslan, the talking lion, who in the books is the King of Kings. In a rare move for Netflix, the streamer is giving Narnia a 2-week theatrical IMAX run in late 2026, something that Gerwig fought for. So yeah, we have our White Witch has officially been cast, and she will have a significant role in The Magician's Nephew. What are your thoughts, Stu?
So what's funny is that I looked her up on IMDb because I was curious which Barbie she played in IMDb. It is the most unhelpful thing ever because she's literally just credited as Barbie.
No. So she's just another version of Barbie.
Yeah, but they don't even specify. Is it Sailor Barbie? Is it Motorcycle Barbie?
That's pretty funny. How are you feeling about the casting choice here?
Yeah, so I haven't really seen I don't even think I've seen any of her movies, if I'm being honest. So yeah, I got really no thoughts one way or another. I've never really been a huge fan of the Narnia franchise. Like, I remember liking the first two when I was younger, but like I just kind of got bored with them as I got older. Even the books never really hooked me as much because I read them in middle school. but yeah, I've just never been a big fan of the franchise. Not that I have a dislike for the franchise in any way. I don't. It's just yeah, I think I should probably give the franchise one more chance at some point in the future. But as of now, I don't really have too much hype for it. I definitely don't think this is a bad casting choice, especially looking at her resume on IMDb, looking at the things that she's been in. Like these are really good movies, like Death on the Nile, and other, and then of course Barbie itself, and then Sex Education, which I haven't seen, but I've heard people say is a really great show. So, like, obviously, I think this is objectively a pretty good casting choice. So, I am curious to see how she does in the actual show itself. Or wait, I'm so sorry. Is this a show or a movie?
It's a movie.
It is a movie. Okay, my bad. So, I'm curious to see how she does in the movie itself.
Yeah, Indy says I dig that casting. Yeah, I'm not too familiar with her work either. A Death on the Nile is a film that I've always really wanted to go ahead and see. I remember seeing the Murder on the Orient Express, but I believe Death on the Nile was kind of like the sequel to that film, and I never got a chance to see it, but I really wanted to. She was in another movie, Emily, which sounds familiar, so I might have to give that one a shot. And yeah, I've heard of Sex Education, but as a television series, but I've never watched it, so I don't know how. It says she's in like 32 episodes of it, so she's clearly a key role in that movie. So I am interested to kind of see just her acting chops. But look, this is in very early stages of kind of coming together. I can't wait to learn a little bit more about this particular project. I still don't necessarily know what this project is going to be. Everything that I have heard about it in regards to like this is going to be a rock and roll film, I have no idea what the hell that means from some of the things that people have talked about it, to the Meryl Streep casting as Aslan. I'm literally like, what is this movie? So I am curious to see what Greta Gerwig's vision is going to be like. And I kind of like the bold decision from Netflix to go ahead and start with The Magician's Nephew. I think maybe outside of like animation form, I don't know if this has been adapted in a big way or whatever the case may be. So it feels like a fresh take in the sense of allowing us to come back to the Narnia world without rehashing The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and giving us sort of like a true kind of starting point, if you will. And if the casting of Daniel Craig in here does in fact hold up as like the uncle, if anything, I do think that they're putting together a pretty formidable cast. I mean, regardless of who they're playing, Daniel Craig, Meryl Streep, two huge names. I think that alone will certainly draw eyes to this project. But I'm excited. I definitely want to see more, learn a little bit more about the casting and more details. But shout out to Emma Mackey, who scored the White Witch role. I think she was quite formidable from what I remember in The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. And so I'm really hoping that to kind of see. I don't know if it's going to be like an origin story for her in this or whatever the case may be, but if anything, to be able to kind of tell her story and showcase how we get to something like The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and the stasis of which sort of Narnia has been held in under her grasp, is really fascinating for me. So I am kind of glad that they're going this route of starting off with the Magician's Nephew. Frank Wood, what's up, Frank? He says, I agree with Indy. This is good casting for a White Witch. She was great in Sex Education. Not feeling the Meryl Streep casting. Hope you will give the books a second look, Stuart. Yeah, I might have to read The Magician's Nephew also, and start from there and see, kind of get an idea of like how they may potentially bring this world to life once again. But I'm glad we have two people already big fans of this casting. I might have to check out Sex Education since you guys are talking so highly about it, and Emma McKee's role in it. But yeah, you guys are making me more anticipated for this casting now.
Indeed.
But yeah, guys, let us know your thoughts in the live chat below. But Stuart, with that out of the way, that will do it for all of our main topics today. So I think you know what time it is.
I do indeed. And now, everybody, it is time for live viewer questions.
And it is, in fact, that time for our live viewer question segment of the show. If you guys ever want to submit a live viewer question, how do you do it? Well, I'm glad you guys asked. Just simply go over to our YouTube channel, as you see here. Every Saturday afternoon or Saturday evening, we will be posting a live viewer question. So just go over to our our YouTube channel, as you see here. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you hit that like button, and then we're just going to go to the post tab right here. Click on that post tab, and voila, live viewer questions. We got 10 questions we're going to be diving into today. Let me go ahead and sort that, and let me get some music started in here too, Stuart. Give us some nice background music going. There we go. Give me a couple minutes to readjust here. Frank Whitson, she was also in the running for Lois Lane, Stuart.
Oh shit. Okay. So it'll kind of be funny seeing her in this.
Yeah, she's been, gaining some ground in Hollywood and recognition. Marcelino says, I have a theory that this will be less of a Narnia adaptation and more of a deconstruction, like the vein of his Dark Materials towards Christianity.
I don't know, because like his Dark Material or the Golden Compass books, correct me if I'm wrong here, but the Golden Compass books were kind of made as an anti-Christianity kind of fantasy book series, whereas like Narnia was a pro-Christianity book series, because the guy who wrote Narnia was Christian, if I'm not mistaken. So I almost feel like they're kind of opposites, but I mean, I could still see the show going in that direction. I just I'm not saying it won't happen. I'm just saying I doubt it'll happen that way.
All right. Let's get into some of these live viewer questions here. Marcelino, now with Born Again over, it's time to talk about the original plans that Netflix had. Eric Olson, showrunner of season 3, said his plans involve Kingpin and Bullseye would not return for season 4, but would be saved for season 5. Instead of the main villain of season 4 would be Typhoid Mary, who was previously in Iron Fist season 2 and was played by Alice Eve. Alice Eve will return, wouldn't be recast, and her role was to be Matt's love interest. In his own words, Olsen described her story as a warped love story, murder mystery, femme fatale, but a more modern day feminist version as opposed to the sexist version of a femme fatale archetype. Taking over Fisk's role as a ruler of the underworld would be the crime boss, the Owl. Leland Owlsley previously appeared in season 1, played by Bob Gunton, and was an associate of Fisk until he tried to kill Vanessa and was killed in retaliation. He would frequently mention his son, and his son would have become a more comic accurate Owl. And finally, Melvin Potter, the guy who played Daredevil, who made Daredevil's suit and was played by Matt Gerald, would have finally become the vigilante known as Gladiator. What do you think? That Melvin didn't die in season 3. I thought he died, or maybe he was just captured by the police. I think he was captured by the police. But yeah, maybe he survived. I personally like that idea. While I walked away really enjoying sort of the I really enjoyed Born Again. I had a really fantastic time with that. I don't think it's a perfect series by any stretch of the imagination, but I really enjoyed it. I think if there's any question for me as to like where I would put Born Again in the 4 seasons of Daredevils, I would have to revisit season 2 to see if I liked it better than season 2. I still hold it as season right now in my head. I want to say season 3, season 1, Born Again, season 2, but I might flip those after I do want to have a rewatch of season 2 a little bit. But if there's anything about Born Again that, while I really appreciated seeing Vincent D'Onofrio as the Kingpin, along with the return of Bullseye in here, I think as somebody that literally just watched season 3 to get prepared for Daredevil Born Again, it had its pros and its cons in the sense of like, I'm glad we got to revisit these really 2 great characters that I think if you inject into any season of Daredevil, it's always going to be for the best. but then I'm just like, I literally just got these two, and it would have been really nice to have explored other characters and maybe had Vincent come back as Kingpin and do the Mayor Fisk storyline for like a season 5 or a season 6 or whatever the case may be, and have Bullseye return at some other particular point in time. But I also have to take a step back and remember, like, there has been like a 5-6 year gap between season 3 and Born Again. So the idea of Kingpin coming back into power doesn't feel forced. It makes sense as to why it would be revisited. But had we gotten Born Again maybe a couple of years sooner, I probably would have been okay with the idea of like, yeah, let's go with the owl. Let's go with Typhoid Mary. I like those concepts. I really would have loved to have seen those kind of fleshed out. And maybe it's something that they revisit come like season 3 of Born Again. But I'm not opposed to his ideas. I kind of would have loved to have seen that route instead of the route that they went with Born Again. But again, I'm not taking anything away from this season. What about you, Stuart?
Yeah, okay, so like I definitely agree in the sense that, yeah, if it came out like the next year, I wouldn't necessarily want to see Kingpin back as the main villain like right from the get-go. And even Bullseye, I'm okay with them like kind of waiting. Like they built it up at the very end of season 3, so if we had to have like one more season to wait for him to make his real big return, I would have been okay with that. But I also get, though, because with Born Again, coming out years and years later, I get why they didn't want to do it with the same plans that they had with Daredevil season 4, and they wanted to kind of completely reboot it. And I think that for the most part, kind of like with season 2, I think I'm actually right there with you in terms of ranking the seasons. I think like Born Again and season 2, the main thing they have in common is that they're both real mixed bags. Like when they're great, but there are also times where it's like the writing just feels very I don't know, it feels very weird, and it just kind of like takes me out at times. And I think that both season 2 Daredevil and Daredevil Born Again definitely have that in common. So like I think that with this reboot overall, I think what they did with bringing Fisk back, having him be the main villain, I think that made sense. Even bringing Bullseye back, the way they utilize him also made a lot of sense. But yeah, I do think that if this show goes on, I hope they use these plot elements that would have been used in Daredevil season 4 and 5, and they bring those into Daredevil Born Again in the future.
Yeah, because I really want to see the owl brought to life. I mean, Daredevil has his own rogues gallery that I kind of would like to see expanded on a little bit more. And I think the owl is a really great sort of substitute for somebody like the Kingpin. So I hope that there are elements from season 4's ideas that do get reworked. Look, what's interesting to me, the Typhoid Mary stuff. I guess, would they recast or just bring back the actress? It sounds like he wanted to bring back the actress from Iron Fist season 2 and have him reprise the role for Typhoid Mary. I probably would have been more okay with the Typhoid Mary as the femme fatale sort of opposite and love interest for Daredevil compared to the Heather character that we wind up getting from Born Again. So I would have been perfectly okay with both Typhoid Mary and Owl being in here in a sense to kind of expand the rogues gallery a little bit instead of being so reliant on Kingpin and Bullseye. So yeah, I do think those are two aspects I would have loved to have held on to. He said, this has become also number 2. This has become more vocal over the years, but some people say that Rogue One is the most overrated Star Wars film. They say this because all everyone talks about is the final battle, Darth Vader and the Death Star. No one talks about everything that came before or the other characters. Some also felt like the characters were cardboard cutouts with a gimmick and not actual characters, like nervous guy with goggles, blind, not Jedi, big guy with big gun, funny robot, main guy and main girl. When Andor was first coming out, I may recall Star Wars fans, both hardcore and casual, having a hard time remembering that Andor was the Mexican guy in Rogue One because they found him that forgettable. Andor might be a great show, and it turned casting Andor himself into a 3-dimensional character, but many say that doesn't change the fact that Rogue One on its own is still mediocre. What do you think, Stuart? Do you have any thoughts on that one?
Yeah, like when Andor was announced, I wasn't the most excited, I don't think. I'm sure someone will probably pull up a clip of us announcing Andor the TV show and me being like, "Oh, I can't wait." But so maybe I'm remembering it wrong, but I remember not being too excited for it. And I think because of that, with my expectation being low, I think that was part of why the first 2 episodes didn't grip me and why I was suddenly hooked during episode 3. Because it was like Rogue One. I think the characters were interesting enough as one-off characters. I think that you kind of nailed it. Like, they had more personality than they had character depth. And if we were supposed to follow these characters for any longer than that one movie, then that would have been really bad writing. But I think it worked because we weren't really following them through like a full-on series. It was just their purpose was to send an email and then die, basically. If you want to put in the most simplest terms, that's basically what it was. So I thought it was fine that the characters weren't like the most memorable. So when I heard a show was going to be made about Andor, I thought that was weird because I thought his character worked for that movie. I didn't think expanding his character was going to work at all. And I think it just worked because like they decided most of the backstory that was kind of like established in the movie was vague enough to where they had just so much flexibility with his character. And I think that's why Andor works so well as a show, is because the characters were boring, because they didn't have a lot of detail in them. The showrunners were allowed to do whatever they wanted with the character of Andor as long as the outcome, was the same. They even went as far as to kind of change his backstory in a couple of ways because in some of the promotional stuff, it was saying how like Cassian Andor was from this one planet, but then in the show itself, where we find out that was actually a cover. In the show, they're like, "Oh, we did everything, forging your documents, so people think that you're from this one planet." I can't remember the name of. And then I believe there's also the kind of retcon, but not really, of him mentioning that he fought in the Clone Wars. But then when you actually get to the flashback, like technically he fought in the Clone Wars, but he wasn't like fighting in the war itself. His fight was more just trying to survive during the events of the Clone Wars, not necessarily taking sides one way or another. So I do like, them being vague meant they had a lot of flexibility, and it led to Andor being like such an amazing TV show, I think.
Yeah, when they announced the Andor series, I was like, "Really? You're gonna make a Cassian Andor? Like, this dude was so boring. Like, what story do you have to tell?" But I would say that I think the focus of Rogue One, while yes, you always have those characters that um play their role, they're not the main role of the story. The main role went to Jyn Erso. The main roles went to Galen Erso. The main roles went to Krennic. And, Cassian was sort of like a supporting character in this movie, in the sense of him being the opposite to Urso, in the sense of that pushback and the distrust, and really establishing the idea that the Rebel Alliance is willing to get its hands dirty in order to kind of complete their missions. And I thought his droid K2SO was great, sort of counterbalance to Cassian's sort of boring demeanor a little bit. And it really added to a great amount of flavor. So I think if anything, I think the story is there. I think that action was there, for sure, whether that be the final battle, whether that be moments in between. But I think I think the story itself certainly holds up in regards to it, minus the idea of like having memorable or thought-provoking sort of side characters. I mean, for me, I was fascinated in a relationship of the blind Jedi and the guy that with the big guy with the big gun, and their sort of like relationship. I think they had enough screen time in there to have its own impact. But not everybody's gonna like the same things that I certainly do. But I certainly don't find it as an overrated movie. If anything, I do think it helps, especially the missions that they're on. I think it definitely establishes a great lead into that of episode 4. And I think something like the Andor series itself, when we look at things in hindsight, I think it's going to even elevate Rogue One as a movie even more, knowing the past of Andor, not necessarily finding him as the boring character from the Rogue One movie. I think these series will definitely heighten his appreciation in the movie itself when giving it a rewatch. So I'm excited for it. Some wanted the characters in Rogue One to be more than cardboard cutout characters, because that what makes good characters and not just one-offs. But they were one-offs. They were definitely meant to be one-offs in that regards. Well, also, could you talk about a Rogue One without talking about the final battle? Like Jin's father saw rebellion in the planet because no one talks about those. Only the Darth Vader, Death Star, and final battle. I mean, well, those were the two biggest moments. Mm-hmm. Right. But I don't think that takes away from the idea of what the main story was. I mean, when I talk about Revenge of the Sith, I talk about the Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin Skywalker battle all the time, but or the youngling's death sort of thing, right? I don't think a lot of people kind of dive into how incredible the first action battle sequence was, or the politics of the distrust between Obi-Wan and Anakin. Like, those stuff isn't really highlighted too much. When people think of Revenge of the Sith, they think of the final battle between those two is usually that aspect of the film that gets brought up the most. So I can understand why that would certainly be up there and talked about when it comes to Rogue One, but I don't think that takes away from the idea that the rest of the movie sucks, because that's the one thing that's talked about the most. So I don't agree necessarily with that argument. But I hear people say it, or some people feel like the movie itself was kind of boring, but I just don't agree with that assessment personally. I think there's just plenty of story between Jin and Galen and Krennic alone that's appealing for the entirety of the movie. Many people have felt like the James Gunn formula has run its course after nearly 6 projects involving Guardians of the Galaxy, Suicide Squad, Peacemaker, and Creature Commandos. People have felt like it's all more of the same we've seen before. This isn't to say that any of them are bad. It's just that what happens when you rely on the same formula for 10 years at this point, which is why some people are hoping that Superman movie is completely different, as it will help James Gunn get outside his comfort zone. Do you have similar feelings?
I think it's definitely going to be a little bit different from James Gunn's other projects. And that was like kind of my big thing about the Superman movie, is that if he's going to make kind of a proper Superman movie, the way he's kind of like selling it to everyone, he does have to step out of his comfort zone a little bit, and I'm not saying there isn't going to be comedy, but at the same time, it's how do I describe it? Like with Guardians of the Galaxy movies and Peacemaker, like they're comedies with a lot of drama, but I feel like, if you're going to do a Superman movie, you got to do a drama with comedy in it. You know what I mean? So I think that's going to be the direction that he goes in with Superman, which again will be outside his comfort zone, but I think he can pull it off because he's had enough experience behind the cameras, working with other people, knowing what a good movie looks like. I mean, you look at the way he talks about other films, he definitely knows, he doesn't rely, while he uses his technique because it works, I don't think he does it as like a crutch because he can't do anything else. I think he just does it because it's what he's most comfortable with. So yeah, the one thing that I'm actually worried about with the Superman was the most recent rumor about the movie, because it actually kind of sounds like they're just remaking the Shin Ultraman movie if they go this direction. But the idea is that there's no central plot, but rather just 3 things happen in this movie that are mostly unrelated, and it's just kind of like meant to be like the day in life of Superman. But I'm not saying it'll be bad if that's the direction they go in. I'm just going to say that that's definitely it gets me a little nervous is all I'm saying.
I get you. I completely understand that. Do I have similar? Look, one, I will say I do think that Superman is going to be completely different. I don't think I like what you said, Stuart, in the sense of like his style isn't a crutch in the sense of like that's the only thing that he can do. I think he's certainly more than capable of doing other things. It's just that the last couple of films, like that's just what he's really, really great at. And so I don't think that's a testament of James Gunn can't do anything different. And he himself has talked about the idea of like, he knows and understands that he can't treat the Superman movie as he does his other films. So I am expecting James Gunn, if he's decided to take on Superman, he's doing it because he has a message, because he has a story that's unique to anything that he's kind of told before. And I think his artistic directing style will certainly change in regards to bringing that to life. It doesn't mean that he's not going to have humorous moments and things like that and moments of levity. I think he'll definitely have those humorous moments, but I also think he'll bring the really heartfelt stuff that he's known for in a lot of his films. Maybe rely on that a little bit more, and rely a little bit more on the drama and action, if you will. So I am expecting a different vibe here from Superman for sure. But I don't think his formula has certainly run its course. I think he's just really good at a certain thing, but I think he's also really good at other things. And I think Superman will certainly bring that, test that for sure. But I know you said he also says not to say that they aren't bad, and I agree. I don't think they're certainly bad. I think Peacemaker season 2 will certainly be just as popular as the first season. As Galaxy of the Guardian stuff was great. Creature Commandos, I think, was really well received. I think Suicide Squad might be one of those films that I could see having had maybe mixed reviews in regards to it, but people still leaning towards the good side of things. So I think his formula still works, but I do think he recognizes Superman's going to have to be a different beast altogether. So I'm not so much worried about that. I know you have a fourth question in here, but I do want to give other people the opportunity. I usually try and limit this stuff to 3 questions if possible, Marcelino. So if you want to rehash your fourth question for next week, please go ahead and do so. But I want to really kind of keep things to 3, because sometimes our live viewer questions kind of go a little bit longer than I'd like. Jessica Friedman, what are you looking forward to seeing in the new season of Avatar: The Last Airbender live action? And if Lois and Clark, The New Adventures of Superman, had gotten a 5th season, what do you think it would be about? And what are you hoping to see in the new Avatar animated series? So there's like 3 questions. So, Stuart, I'll let you handle a lot of these questions here, since you, is there anything that you want to see in the new season of the Avatar: The Last Airbender live action?
I do, because okay, so for one, I do hope they minimize the changes when it comes to the characters to the story. I get it, you have to make certain adjustments so it fits the 8-episode arc or the 8-episode seasons. But yeah, I hope that when it comes to characters, they can be a little more in line with their cartoon counterparts, specifically with Toph. There was a interview with the actress for Toph that got a lot of fans worried. And normally I would say it was probably just like a misworded interview, but given what we've already seen from Sokka and how they've kind of butchered his character, I am kind of worried they could do the same with Toph. So I want to see Toph be basically the same character she was in the cartoon. I hear them saying they want her to be more feminine in the new Avatar series, and I think that would just kind of go against the base, like everything about her character, and I'm okay with her having like feminine qualities, especially like if it's something that kind of she develops like after spending time with Katara over the season. That's fine, because that's kind of what happens in the animated series. But I don't know. It's just the idea of them trying to make her more relatable to like a wider audience by making her more feminine. I think that's kind of just lazy, honestly, more than anything else. So I hope it was just like kind of a misworded interview. But again, seeing how they did it with Sokka, I'm worried they'll do it with Toph. So that's my big hope. They don't do that with Toph.
Sticking with the Avatar stuff, is there anything you're hoping to see in this new Avatar animated series they've been talking about?
Ooh, there's so much. For one, I hope we get like kind of like in Korra, in Korra. I hope we get a lot of flashbacks about like kind of the gap in between Korra and this new series, just like how in Korra we had some flashbacks that showed the gap between Avatar: Last Airbender and Korra. I'm very curious. I really hope that like the hate that Korra kind of has in this new series, because it's apparently she really screwed up and it pissed everyone off. I'm hoping that it's one of those things where they started out and you as the person watching it are going to probably be like, what, she did that? And you're going to kind of like be angry at her also, along with the characters in the show, until we get kind of the reveal of, oh no, this is what actually happened, and something that'll make us as an audience watching it completely make a 180 on her and go, oh, she was doing the right thing this whole time.
And then if we were to get a new Adventures of Superman had gotten a wait, is this a Lois and he says Lois and Clark, the new Adventures of Superman? I'm assuming this is like the Dean Cain stuff had gotten the 5th season. What do you think it would be about? I have no, it's been years since I've followed this that animated series, honestly. Or not the animated series, but that television series. I don't even remember what the last season was about. Did they ever have kids? Maybe they were gonna have kids. I don't remember if Lois was ever pregnant in any of those series and those seasons or not. But maybe fatherhood would have been pretty interesting to see them explore.
What's funny is that I've never seen that show, but
Lois
I
and Clark
do, but I do know it has one of the most famous like cliffhanger endings, because it ends with Lois being pregnant, and then that's it. We never like it, because they were going to do another season about that, but it got canceled.
Yeah, see, I'm glad you reminded me of the cliffhanger. So yeah, I would love to see that kind of explored a little bit more. Yeah, I used to love Dean Cain as Superman. He was my Superman growing up during that time period when it was on TV, and I used to have a big crush on Terry Hatcher back in the day. Marcelino says, do you feel fatigued by gun formula for about 10 years now? But do you feel fatigued by the gun formula for about 10 years now? Do you want something different? Surprisingly, no, I don't. And I say that because he's so good at it. Mm-hmm. You know, I have no problem. I'm glad that he's changing course here for Superman. But if in like, I'm pretty sure I'm probably going to enjoy Peacemaker season 2. We'll definitely have to see. But if he wants to tackle something else after this, maybe give the writing for a Superman sequel to somebody else. Like if James Gunn announced he himself personally is writing and working on another movie that is reliant on his formula again, I'm going to be just as excited for it, because for me, it hasn't failed him. So I don't find it as fatigue. If it was getting worse and worse and worse, then maybe I would be fatigued by it. But I'm not fatigued by it at all 10 years in, because of the fact that it's so good. But I am also open to him trying new things. But if he went back to his old formula, I wouldn't be mad at it.
Yeah.
Doomsday. Since it's been 50 years of Sentai, how did you get into the franchise? This is my story of how I got into it. My first sighting of Super Sentai was about a decade ago when I was watching YouTube and I saw a clip of the Core 5 Gokaijus Morphin Roll Call. Of course, at the time, I didn't know what it was about, but knew that it was Power Rangers adjacent. It wasn't until a few years later when I watched a clip that showed the history of the franchise. I honestly thought Power Rangers as a whole started back in 1975 and not 1993. But my older cousin clarified there was actually a Japanese show called Super Sentai and Power Rangers is based on it. I was like, that is really cool. My first Super Sentai season that I actually watched was Real Soldier back in 2019 as it aired. How did you get into the franchise, Stuart?
So it started, of course, with when I was like getting back into Power Rangers as a whole. And me getting back into Power Rangers was because I happened to be watching the history, because I was also like kind of, you know, into a lot of comic books, and I would use like Linkara as kind of a way of deciding what comic books should I read next. And while doing so, he had a series called History of Power Rangers. I started watching it, and originally I was going to stop, you know, after it got to kind of the point of where I kind of stopped watching it, but I was so intrigued of everything that he had to say that like not only did I keep going, but I started watching along, like while watching his History of Power Rangers retrospect. So it was just, that was how I got into it, because for the longest time I kind of like looked at the Power Rangers series as, oh, it was good up until the point Disney started producing it, then it sucked. And that came from an opinion of someone who had never actually really watched any Disney Star Wars except for a little bit of Ninja Storm, or I said Star Wars. I meant to say Disney Power Rangers. I
Mhm.
watched a little bit of Ninja Storm, and I wasn't really impressed at the time. So I just kind of assumed, as what all Disney Power Rangers looks like, it kind of sucks. Now in retrospect, Ninja Storm is not a bad show, but again, I think I just watched it at the wrong time. But yeah, so it was through that I got back into Power Rangers, and then a while later, like I'd known about Sentai's existence for a long time, but I didn't really get into it until I started watching back when you were called A Plus Opinions, before I had joined the channel. I started watching your reviews for Power Rangers, and then you would mention Sentai quite a few times. So I'm like, okay, you know what? And I messaged you on Facebook, and I'm like, hey, I am thinking about getting into Sentai. Where would you recommend that I start? And then you recommended Gokaiger. I watched it and I enjoyed it so much. And then it took a season that I already didn't like of Power Rangers, and it made me dislike that season even more because I'm just like, this is what they had to work with. This is like what they could have done. Like, how do you make this into a bad Power Ranger season? I just don't get it. But
I'm so sorry, Power Rangers.
Yes. So through that, I started watching a couple other, and then I also started getting into Kamen Rider through that, and even a little bit dabbled a little bit into Ultraman. But yeah, I think it was just it was like a drug, once I had a little hit of that Sentai, I'm like, no, I need more. I need more Sentai. And it was perfect too, because I started getting into it in 2020 when everything was locked down. I was doing classes online, and so I just had so much free time because I got laid off from work temporarily, so I wasn't really working at the time. So I just my COVID the quarantine was just basically Super Sentai and school.
I love it, man. I love it. Yeah, no, I think my first introduction was Gokaiger. I remember me and my friend Jonathan, we were working at the time together, and I think I was doing a rewatch of Power Rangers at the time. And I remember my friend Jonathan saying, man, wouldn't it be cool if they did like a Power Ranger Pirates theme? And I was like, that would be awesome, bro. And so I just Google searched Power Ranger Pirates, and Gokaiger came up. I'm like, bro, look at this. And I remember him and I watching like one of the trailers for it, and we were freaking blown away. We were like, oh my God, the costume designs are incredible. And I remember from that point on watching Gokaiger and thinking to myself, my God, this is like the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life. And I think what Gokaiger did for me too was, while I was unfamiliar with the other Super Sentai teams, it really broadened my horizons in the sense of like just how big the franchise is, and just how many other teams and really cool connections to the past, and being introduced to like the Japanese versions of these costumes I had seen in Power Rangers, but didn't know like some of the story elements, and to kind of see it all celebrated at once just opened up my eyes to the sense of like, man, I really need to get into Super Sentai even more, to kind of see how some of these stories kind of unfold in their Japanese counterparts. And then from there, I immediately jumped right into Go Busters and watched a little bit of Q Ranger, watched all of ToQger, and all of Ninja, and I just became really sucked into Super Sentai. So my entry point was Gokaiger for sure, and it just opened up a whole new world for me and appreciation that made me want to then go back and view a lot of the older Super Sentai stuff too. So appreciate the question, man. How would you rank the next 3 big superhero movies from worst to best based on your anticipation from them? Superman, Thunderbolts, and the Fantastic Four First Steps. So big 3 superheroes from worst to best. On your anticipation for them. Okay. Worst, and this is not to say that I think that this movie is going to be bad, but again, my anticipation level for them: the Fantastic Four First Steps, Thunderbolts, and then Superman. That would be my ranking. So I'm going from worst to best. So Fantastic Four, Thunderbolts, and Superman in regards to my level of anticipation for them. What about you, Stuart?
I think, this is funny because I put it on my top 5 and I left out Fantastic Four, but I think like as we get closer and closer to Fantastic Four, I think I'm kind of regretting not putting that on my top 5. So I'm gonna say that right now, Thunderbolts is my least anticipated, and it's not because I think it's gonna be bad. But just I don't know, the more I see for Fantastic Four, the more I see myself getting drawn to this. And so I'm going to say, so Thunderbolts, Fantastic Four, and then of course Superman. Superman is still my number one most anticipated.
Yeah, it's mine too. If Power Rangers Hexagon were to actually happen in the place of Ninja Storm, how do you think it would have played out?
Whew, boy, because I have to like kind of keep an account to like what kind of budget they would have been working with. You know what? I think the only way this would have worked is if they didn't move to New Zealand. So I'll go with the hypothetical of they're in LA so they can get back any actors they want to and they still have all the props. So giving it like the full benefit of the doubt. I think the main things that wouldn't have played out the same that like the Amit Bamik originally wanted to do in his script. I don't think we would have had like the Power Rangers Civil War thing going on. I think the idea of Power Rangers fighting against each other would have gone completely against anything like Saban would have. Like, I know that he was pretty hands off in the later seasons, but I feel like that's one of the exceptions where he would have stepped in and been like, yeah, we can't have that. So I don't think that would have ever happened, at least not the way it was kind of pitched. But I do think that there would have been probably some more with Ninjor, because I feel like if you're going with ninja outfits, you might bring back characters that are ninja themed like Ninjor. I think there would have been some really cool world building in it. And then, possibly I think it would have led to future seasons wanting to share more direct continuity with past seasons of Power Rangers as well.
Yeah, I do love how you broke that down. I would love to see that too. I would have loved to have seen that. We got Power of the Morphing Grid, the unfair reception of Power Rangers Operation Overdrive. Despite sharing a similar premise of the global treasure hunt with the widely praised Gokaiger, the Power Rangers Operation Overdrive has unfortunately been met with significant disdain from the fandom. While the Gokaigers as space pirates were depicted as inherently disrespectful towards the legacy, even attacking their predecessor, the Gosager team, the Overdrive Rangers' initially motivations and subsequent actions were portrayed through a different lens. Recruited by employees by Andrew Hartford, their brief departure in Once a Ranger, triggered by apparent loss of their powers and the arrival of veteran Rangers, were exacerbated by the removal of crucial scenes. A deleted scene showed the Overdrive team discovering their replacement via a newspaper headline reading, "New team of Power Rangers save ancient monument. Citizens around the world are grateful," further emphasizing their feeling of being discarded, even having their Zords reassigned. This situation mirrored the B Squad's displacement by the returning A Squad and SPD, and the Lightspeed Rescue Rangers' brief replacement in the Cyborg Rangers episode, highlighting a recurring theme of teams being abruptly sidelined. Even earlier in the series, the Overdrive Rangers employee status was hinted at when Will Aston, the Black Ranger, during his staged defection, said to one of the villain factions, "They fired me. Being a Ranger doesn't pay too well." The lack of these contextualized scenes has unfairly cast the Overdrive team in a negative light, even with the head writer, Jackie Marchand, and the cast revealed at fan conventions that they faced unwarranted criticism for narrative choices heavily impacted by these omissions. He says the decision by Disney to remove these key scenes significantly altered the audience's perception of the Overdrive's Rangers' motivations and their departure. Had viewers witnessed their reaction to the newspaper and understood the extent of their replacement, including the loss of their Zords, the decision to leave would likely have been seen as more understandable emotional response rather than a simple abandonment of duty. Hartford's initial recruitment, lacking the urgency of a visible threat akin to the monster's attack in Lightspeed Rescue, further contributed to the perception that the Overdrive Rangers were merely fulfilling a job rather than embracing a heroic calling. The parallels to the B Squad and the Cyborg Rangers where the Rangers were forced to surrender their duties, and their morphers underscored a recurring narrative trope within a franchise. Yet the missing context in Operation Overdrive prevented viewers from fully appreciating the emotional weight of the situation. Given the significant impact these deleted scenes would have had on the show's reception and subsequent criticism faced by the creators and actors, one must wonder, why were these crucial scenes, which provided pivotal context for Overdrive, ultimately removed from the episode? Did you feel a type of way about that, Stuart?
Yeah, like I know we've had a comment similar to this where they mentioned those exact deleted scenes, and I think my response was, the same as it is now, which is it's kind of messed up that Disney interfered to that level. Like, I know they've done that before, like with SPD. Like, I heard some of the stuff that the showrunner was saying that they weren't allowed to do on it, and it's kind of amazing that they were still able to make a good show with all the restrictions and with all the production kind of issues they were having when SPD was in development. So I think that SPD was kind of a miracle, and Overdrive was kind of like the what could have happened if like everything else wasn't like falling like perfectly in line. I think that was like kind of the problem with Overdrive as well, was that Disney got too comfortable at that time of making these demands for Power Rangers that they knew executives were, or that the showrunners were going to listen to, because obviously they don't want to lose their job or anything like that, especially because I don't think Disney cared at all about Power Rangers or like the quality of it. So if a showrunner wanted to do something that went against what Disney wanted, I don't think they would have any problem firing that guy and getting a yes man to replace him, because even if it meant a poor quality, it would just mean getting it out there. And I think that's all Disney wanted with Power Rangers, was to get it out there to sell toys. I don't think they gave a crap about the quality. And yeah, I think that was also the big problem too with Overdrive is I think that on paper it's an ambitious season with a lot of really cool ideas behind it, but I think that the problem was that it was produced by the wrong people, and I don't mean like the showrunners or anything. When I say producers, I'm talking about the Disney executives, the people that have a million other things to worry about, and so therefore do not give Power Rangers the treatment that I think it deserved to have at the time. So I think the budget wasn't there. I think there, from what you hear about the behind the scenes stuff, like was mentioned in this comment, a few too many studio demands as well. And I think that when you have all of that, it's really hard to make a compelling story. So, even though I'm not a fan of Overdrive, I do like the fact that the writers for the show are upfront about why it turned out the way it did. And I like that fans are able to look past like these flaws, and that there are a lot of fans that actually really do like this show. It's not like Megaforce where it's stripped down to nothing but parts. It's like I feel like Operation Overdrive is stripped for parts, but those parts actually do something, whereas like Megaforce was just like there was like nothing. There's hardly anything I can really appreciate about those two seasons.
The most talented man in the world says, for a significant portion of Power Ranger franchise, Tommy Oliver held a central and arguably dominant position, from his iconic return as the White Ranger and MMPR through his leadership roles in Zeo and Turbo, and culminating in his mentorship in Dino Thunder. Tommy's presence loomed large. This consistent spotlight, further amplified by special appearances, led some fans to perceive his character as overexposed, potentially overshadowing other veteran Rangers. These viewers expressed a desire for a narrative landscape where Tommy's prominence was diminished, or perhaps where his character wasn't considered quite so exceptional. The tragic passing of JDF in 2022, however, has cast a somber light on those past wishes, with some now reflecting on their sentiments with a sense of regret, as the possibility of future on-screen appearances is now lost. The 25th anniversary special inadvertently became JDF's final on-screen portrayal of Tommy in a subsequent role, while the character himself briefly appeared in suit in the 30th anniversary. In the 30th anniversary, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Once and Always, depicting a peaceful post-Ranger life, and continues to exist within the comic book franchise. Frank's absence leaves a void. The complex feelings surrounding Tommy's extensive tenure in the franchise, ranging from admiration to a desire for broader character focus, are now intertwined with the poignant reality of the actor's passing. How does the real world loss of JDF impact the perception and the legacy of Tommy Oliver within the fan base? I think this is a prime example of not realizing what you have until it's gone. And I think sometimes us taking people for granted until they're passing, and you think to yourself like, damn, like, I think you miss the impact that a person has on the franchise and the good motivations that he does. And yes, I think sometimes, I think people arguably, can have that argument of like, man, maybe we're overexposing Tommy a little bit. We'd like to have the highlight of other characters. I mean, that's, I think that's understandable feeling to certainly have. But I think when somebody passes like that, you think to yourself like, damn, man, maybe the amount of Tommy we had was just enough, or maybe not enough at times, but I don't think people having that mindset of I would like to have other people showcase. I don't think that's a wrong mindset. And I don't have a problem with people having felt that way. But when somebody is gone, I think you truly feel the impact that they had. And I can understand people regretting some of those comments, but I don't think that they should. But it is a case of you don't really understand what you have fully until it's taken away from you. And I've always really appreciated and always been one of those supporters of, JDF's impact in this franchise has been, I don't even know if maybe it's being fully recognized now based off of where we see Power Rangers at and its fandom and stuff, and not having that positive momentum out there for Power Rangers, having a voice like somebody like JDF had and the power that he had in the franchise. But yeah, man, I'm definitely always gonna miss this guy, and always appreciate what he has done in regards to keeping Power Rangers as relevant as he did all those years. Because I feel like after he passed, Power Rangers hasn't been the same since then. I don't know if that's just based off of how Hasbro has handled the franchise, or the idea of we just don't have his voice being as positive and being out there as often as we're used to kind of keep Power Rangers relevant and people talking about it. You know what I mean, Stuart? But how do you feel about just how does the real world loss of JDF impact the perception and legacy of Tommy Oliver within a franchise? Do you think it heightens his legacy a little bit more, take away from it? How do you feel about it?
Man, it's like I get why there was definitely that fandom of like, oh yeah, he's overused. And yeah, to an extent that, I get the, like what you said, it's not necessarily that people were getting tired of seeing Tommy Oliver. It's that they were tired of not seeing other past Rangers being represented. So I totally get that. But yeah, it is a whole nother feeling when he suddenly is gone, and then you kind of realize those things that you thought was like overdone. It's like now you're never going to get that anymore. And there is, yeah, definitely a huge heartbreaking layer to that. It's the way yeah, the way he was with the fandom for so long, I think is just something that it needs to be appreciated. I don't know. I hear so many things about him as a person, and I don't really care because, like, at the end of the day, how he lives his personal life is none of our business unless you're like in his personal life. So to me, it's like what matters was like, how did he treat the fandom? How did he treat, the Power Rangers franchise as a whole? And I think that, yeah, he had, he had a very positive view of the Power Rangers fandom from everything that I've seen, and he definitely made being a fan feel really good. He made fans feel very welcomed when it came to Power Ranger conventions. Again, I'm talking about like fans that go to conventions to get signs. I'm not talking about people who work with the actors behind the scenes or anything like that. I'm talking specifically from a fan perspective of someone going to a convention, getting a photo or something signed. Is that he would always treat them with like a lot of respect, and just comes off as like an incredibly sweet dude. And then yeah, it's like, if the worst that you can say about this man is that he's overutilized in a Power Rangers franchise and he likes to take up the roles that are offered to him in Power Rangers, yeah, it doesn't seem that bad to me. And I think it's I think it's good that people who did have that complaint are now kind of looking back and going, maybe I was a bit too harsh.
Yeah, I think if anything, for the Tommy Oliver character, I think people probably now look at it as well deserved in regards to as much recognition and how utilized he certainly was. So I think it's more of a well deserved mindset that people take now. Blossom, we have to wait another year, but any expectations for X-Men 97? Man, first off, I am looking forward to X-Men 97. I'm not gonna lie. I am a little bit concerned in regards to the writing. They are reworking the scripts that the previous showrunner had. Ever since they wind up kicking Bo DeMayo out for his reasons, I have been hearing that they have been reworking and rewriting the scripts for season 2, so it may take them a little bit longer to release the season. So, any expectations? Please just be good as season 1 at this point. I am fascinated about the disappearance of the X-Men, of some of the group of X-Men and the X-Men that are left sort of on Earth. I am curious where they're going with that storyline. There were teases of like a potentially Onslaught. I wouldn't mind the opportunity to see an Age of Apocalypse kind of brought to life in animated form. Whether or not that's something that they tackle in the X-Men 97 season 2 or season 3, I would like to see an Age of Apocalypse something for X-Men animated or even live action, to be quite honest with you. But just be good is my expectations to it at this point.
I really don't have any expectations for season 2 because of just like the things I've been hearing about with the overhaul and like the rewriting that they've been doing. From what I hear, some of his writing might still be there in season 2, but a good chunk of it has been rewritten, and that kind of concerns me because season 1 was just so well written, and I really hope they can keep that quality going.
Since I'm using the other Reiwa Rangers, Arrow Rangers, except for Kara Major for Power Rangers, who were imagined by different people who were inspired with them, what other themes can I use for the imaginary Rangers our Tokugers will meet? What other themes? And we're talking about imaginary Rangers. I don't know why something just goes to like folklore or like fairy tale themes. That's where my first head goes to. Like folklore and fairy tales. Similar to that of like, I don't know why when I think of it, I think of like what is it? A Kamen Rider Dragon? What was that?
Kamen Rider Dragon Knight.
Dragon Knight. Yeah, for some reason that's where my mind goes. Peg C, what are your thoughts on a Toys R Us live action movie in the works with Story Kitchen? What? Give me a second here, y'all. I gotta look at this. Oh, it doesn't bring up the actual article though. He did make a post, but it didn't. When I click on it, for some reason, it doesn't go directly to that storyline. But the idea of a Toys R Us live action, I'm good, bro. I'm good. Do you think Super Mario 2 can be successful as the first one?
Yeah. I think that the first one did really good because of the IP, but also because it was a good movie. So assuming that they, as long as they make a good sequel, word of mouth will get out, and it'll definitely have, if not as much, somewhere near the same success as the first movie. A lot of Disney sequels I noticed tend to make more money than their counterparts. So I don't see any reason it wouldn't be the same for Mario 2.
Just to build off of this Toys R Us live action. It says Toys R Us and Story Kitchen are teaming up to develop a live action movie. Toys R Us is a cultural touchstone that continues to impacting the child in all of us today. As an 80s kid who considered Toys R Us one of the most nostalgic places on earth, we're honored to partner to create a film that will capture the spirit of adventure, creativity, and nostalgia that Toys R Us represents. The film, which is in early development, aims to capture that childhood wonder in a modern, fast-paced adventure that taps into the Toys R Us brand's relevance across its more than 70 years in the toy industry. As Toys R Us first film, this project is an exciting opportunity to bring the magic of our brand to the big screen. It will be a journey as boundless as play itself, evoking the electric sense of wonder that is the essence of Toys R Us. The story will capture the imagination, adventure, and joy that has made Toys R Us a destination for kids of all ages. Is Toys R Us still around, Stuart? I heard that they had like bankruptcy and a lot of their stuff had folded, but do they still have buildings out there?
As far as I know, they've been out of business for the last several years. I don't think there's any that are still around. But yeah, I do remember like people being really sad when that happened. But it'd be, I guess, a movie about like kind of the rise and fall of Toys R Us could be interesting. I feel like it would make for a better documentary than it would like a what would you call it? Not a biopic, 'cause it's not about a person. It's about like a franchise, but you know what I mean? Like, I think it would have just been, I think it would make more sense if it was a documentary.
I am seeing, okay, so I don't know how trustworthy these two sites are. There's a co-star storyline, and then there's the US Sun. I think the US Sun is like a tabloid. So I don't know how much we should take into it. It says Toys R Us fans see 7 new locations pop up after the store filed for bankruptcy. So they did file for bankruptcy back in 2017, which did close a lot of the stores. I'm trying to see what this while consumers expect to never see Toys R Us again, WHP Global has made moves to open new locations. The first came as a deal with Macy's in 2022, with the retailer agreed to house 400 Toys R Us pop-ups inside department stores. Interesting. So maybe there is a sense of it making a comeback in some case or another. I will say this. To me, Toys R Us was everything growing up as a kid. I used to remember every birthday going to visit my grandparents, and my grandfather would always take me to Toys R Us to go pick out whatever video game system or toy that I wanted. They used to spoil the hell out of me as a kid, but it was always like Toys R Us was always the store that you wanted to go to, certainly as a kid. So I am interested to kind of see how they tap into that. Like, will they have a Toys R Us store? Will there be like a kid? Will this be set in like the 80s, maybe early 90s or something like that? Will the toys kind of come to life? Will you have will this story, rely upon brands, to allow some of their property characters to be utilized and stuff, and then making this big amalgamation of IPs kind of coming together to tell the legacy of a Toys R Us store. I have no idea how you would put it together, but considering how much of an impact the Toys R Us store had on me, it is interesting. I would have said you can't do a Lego movie before in the past, and they pulled it off. So I'm not going to sleep on this one, but I am curious if a movie like this, if it does successful, if it can help revitalize the Toys R Us in regards to stores in general, and bring them back. That'll be an interesting one.
If it does involve toys coming to life, though, they should call it Toys R Us Story. Did you ever watch Howard the Duck as a kid? If so, what were your thoughts on the movie? I barely remember it. Yeah, I never saw the movie itself, but I did remember I watched the Nostalgia Critic review of it, and the one joke that he made, because there's like apparently a scene where it's a duck like in the tub, and they for some reason decide to make her have boobs. So the joke was duck tits, woo!
Oh no, God. My friend calls me Joseph. The infamous binocular scene from Back to the Future Part 2. While the film playfully suggests the device might automatically center on the subject, the knowing glances and Doc's subsequent embarrassment certainly leave room for more mischievous interpretations. Given the earlier appearance of a similar device in the hands of a young George McFly from decidedly voyeuristic purposes, and the existence, there's more to this story. There's more to this. Hold on a second. I'm trying to see if I can find the questions. Hold on a second. For some reason, this one cuts off. Okay. The infamous binocular scene from Back to the Future 2. While the film playfully suggested the device might automatically center on a subject, the knowing glances and Doc's subsequent embarrassment certainly leave room for more mischievous interpretation. Given the earlier appearances of a similar device in the hands of a young George McFly for decidedly voyeuristic purposes, and the existence of a deleted scene featuring Doc's appreciation for a future Playboy, the idea of him taking a peek is hard to dismiss entirely. Perhaps this fleeting moment of less than scientific curiosity serves as a humorous reminder that even brilliant inventors can have their human moments. One can't help but wonder, though, if Doc ever surreptitiously used those binoculars on Clara before finally mustering the courage to ask her out. Wink, wink.
Oh my gosh. There's a big difference between what George McFly was doing and Doc being fascinated by Playboy magazines. I don't think Doc would be the kind of guy that would do that. And if that was the implication of that scene, it was because he had those goggles set to that by accident. No, I don't like that. Don't turn Doc into a creep.
A little perv.
Yeah.
A little perv.
Let him enjoy his Playboy. He could be a Playboy enthusiast without being a creep about it. George McFly is a creep because that fits his character, and that's part of what he has to grow out of.
That's so funny, dude. Parky, what's up, Parky? Appreciate your comments today. The most recent Transformers 1 film with its stellar cast, Chris Hemsworth, Brian Tyree Henry, Scarlett Johansson, Keegan-Michael Key, indeed offered a refreshing perspective by delving into a foundational relationship between these iconic characters on Cybertron. This animated film, released in 2024, marks a significant departure from the live-action franchise by focusing primarily on the origins of Prime and Megatron on their home planet of Cybertron. This narrative choice resonated strongly with many longtime fans who have longed for a narrative that placed Autobots and Decepticons themselves at the forefront, mirroring the focus of the original animated series and the beloved Hasbro toy line. While films like Bumblebee and Rise of the Beast achieved a better balance between human and robot narrative, the earlier live-action installments, particularly those by Michael Bay, starting with their 27 film, often drew criticisms for their formulaic approach. This includes a prominent placement of human characters, government conspiracies, and the intricate plots that sometimes overshadowed the robot characters themselves. Additionally, these films frequently incorporated elements such as racial and sexist stereotypes, conspicuous product placement, and an abundance of visual effects and slow motion sequences, explosions, and the recurring trope of supermodel portraying the love interest of a male lead, a style often dubbed Michael Bayified by fans. The controversial portrayal of characters like Wheelie and Skids, both voiced by Caucasian actors, and SpongeBob SquarePants himself, Tom Kenny, in a manner that was perceived as African-American stereotypes, using his well-known SpongeBob voice, further fueled these criticisms. Considering the positive reception of Transformers 1 robotic-centric narrative, does this success signal a potential shift in audience preference for future Transformer films, suggesting a greater emphasis on the Autobots and Deceptions as essential characters in live action adaptations?
I do think Transformers 1 will have a big impact on Transformers movies going forward. Whether or not it's the live action movies or only animated Transformers movies, we'll have to wait and see. But I do think that in terms of this was where fans really kind of with their appreciation kind of showed that, yes, we do kind of prefer the designs of, the original 80s Transformers. We do kind of prefer a story that, focuses more on the characters and less on the plot. That kind of stuff. And, more than anything, it shows that, you can have a compelling story, even if we're following, literally action figures, a movie that's meant to sell toys, but we can still have a compelling plot. I do think that, there is definitely a lot that the future Transformers movies are going to take from it. One thing I've been curious about, because we've talked about this movie coming out a few times, but we have the new Transformers G.I. Joe movie that's currently in development. And one of the actors that's been announced that's been cast in it was Chris Hemsworth. And I'm kind of curious if he is reprising his role as Optimus Prime, if they're going to try to imply that this is in the same continuity as Transformers 1, or if he's just playing like Duke or some other G.I. Joe member.
That's a good point.
that's something that kind of gets me like intrigued, is that if he is reprising his role of Optimus, I think that 100% confirms that they're looking at the success of Transformers 1 and taking the direction of the franchise, in that kind of direction.
Yeah, I mean, I still haven't seen Transformers 1. It keeps staring at
Ooh.
it keeps staring at me on my freaking streaming provider, and I'm like, God, I gotta watch this movie. I really gotta watch this movie. But I do think that they are gonna be relying very heavily still on the human relationships with the robots that we've had established in Bumblebee and Rise of the Beast, especially if they're going the route of G.I. Joe. But I do think there's a world where the animation side of things will probably still focus a lot on the robotic relationships. I mean, you can recall the Netflix trilogy that we had just gotten a few years back was really heavily reliant on that too, especially with this Transformers 1 thing. I mean, maybe they'll try and incorporate a little bit more of that, or maybe they feel like, I don't know if it'll seep its way into live action so much, but I think in an animation form, I think they'll definitely take full advantage of that, for sure. But I still think the focus will be robotics and human relationship, especially if you're diving into the GI Joe sort of stuff. But we'll see. Maybe they'll play with it a little bit. And then last but not least, Johnny Marrero. What's up, Johnny? Who do you think would be perfect as Red Ranger for the new reboot? Male or female? I still think they're going to go the female Red Ranger route. I would honestly be surprised if they don't, Stuart. But I don't know who I would want. Yeah, I had the girl from the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina fan casted a long time ago, but she's getting a little bit older. So I don't know who I would want. Actually, maybe I think McKenna Grace from I don't know how old she is either. McKenna Grace from Ghostbusters, I think would be pretty fun. Yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing her take that role. But I know she's doing other things right now. But yeah, that maybe that's the first name that comes to mind in regards to still young, still has a name and following. That's who I would probably fan cast.
For me, my big thing is that if I wasn't fan casting, I hope they kind of go with like a mostly unknown cast. That's kind of my number one hope for it. I kind of want it to be like new young actors. But if I do have to fan cast for a female Red Ranger, I would love to see Bella Ramsey in that role, because she's showing off her acting chops really well in Last of Us. And, I believe she's like 19 or 20 at the moment, but she still looks really young, which means that if they need her to play a high schooler for a couple of years, she could definitely pull that off.
I'm trying to put in like upcoming teen actors. Yeah, I think some of my other fan casting certainly still holds up. Like Noah Schnapp, or no, not Noah. There was a couple other. Was it Jaden Martell who was in? I wanted him to kind of play maybe like that Billy Nerdy kind of role. Jaden Martell was in. He was in that Jonathan Entwistle series on Netflix. I can't remember the name of it right now.
End of the effing world.
End of the effing world. Yeah, I kind of would like to see him get an opportunity to kind of play in Power Rangers. I really want to Sadie Sink, but I think she's on to bigger and better things as of right now. Maybe Haley Bailey coming off of The Little Mermaid. I haven't really seen her in much of anything right now. She's about 25 years old, but I think she can kind of get away with playing a high schooler still. But I think there's a bunch of great opportunities out there. So we'll see. Do you think Stranger Things could do a crossover with Power Rangers in comic book form? Ooh,
that would be kind of interesting.
That would be kind of interesting. I mean, the time period you would have to go with.
Have to do time travel or use the Rangers from the Cold War era that Zordon recruited. Which, wait, actually, No, they would all be dead except for Grace Sterling. Never
Grace
mind. So
Sterling.
even that, so even that wouldn't work.
Yeah, I mean, if you were to do
So it'd have
power,
to be
yeah,
either.
maybe like Time Force, right? Like Time Force and Stranger Things.
Mhm.
I would be completely down for that. That's a crossover I hadn't really heard or talked about before, but that would be dope.
Yeah, they had a Time Force comic book that came out a while ago, and it was pretty good. I think I still have it like in my collection down here. But yeah, I would love to see them return in comic book form.
I just heard there's going to be a new Henry Danger spin-off series with Henry and Ray that will be filmed in Vancouver, and the show might have a more of a darker tone. So do you think it could be more serialized than the original? I think if you're going to Vancouver, maybe it could suggest that. But I haven't really followed Henry Danger the Henry Danger's series at all. But do you think, I don't know about you either, Stuart, but do you think they can do more serialized than the original with the move to Vancouver?
Probably. I would assume like because Vancouver tends to be where like a lot of those type of the more serialized like CW type shows get filmed. So I could see that.
Also, I want to tell you, I saw the
What?
Stranger.
Oh, sorry. I just realized something. Henry Danger came out like I want to say like mid 2010. Someone, if you guys watch the show, please correct me if I'm wrong. So I feel like now it's been a long time since the show premiered. It is probably a smart idea to take it into a darker direction to have the show mature with its audience, basically.
I get you. And then he also says, I did just get, I saw the Stranger Things play on April 5th, and it was awesome. And I met the actors too. That's pretty bad. Like I'm curious if he meant like the play actors or the actors that actually, like from the television series. I think he might be talking about the play actors, but I am interested about that Stranger Things play. I think it highlights like it's like a prequel to the series, if I'm not mistaken, that focuses on, I think, the main villain from season 4. Can't remember his damn name now.
That's cool because I really liked his story when it was told through flashbacks. I could see it working as a play.
But I kind of want to check it out. Hopefully it continues to get bigger and bigger, but I'm glad you had the opportunity to check that out, Johnny. Yeah, I need a full review one day. But ladies and gentlemen, that will do it for all of our live viewer questions today. So thank you everybody that certainly participated here this weekend. I know we have been gone for about a week or so, but it's always great to have your guys' questions and bounce some of your ideas and discussion topics off of each other, man. So thank you so much for everybody that certainly participated. Yeah, as far as what is to come this week, more movie reviews. I plan on seeing Sinners again. I do want to try and see The Legend of Ochi, which is currently out in limited theaters, but it is out. I kind of want to watch that this week. And maybe The Accountant 2. We'll see how flexible my girlfriend will be in allowing me to go to a bunch of movies this week. And then I think we have Thunderbolts on Thursday. I might try and take the girlfriend to go see it a second. I might see it on Thursday, but I might try and take the girlfriend to see it again Thursday after or sometime later on next weekend as well. I think we might have a date for a Rage Room. Have you heard of a Rage Room, Stuart?
No.
It's kind of like those escape rooms, but a Rage Room is like literally where they give you a bat and some goggles and protective gear and you just destroy things.
Oh my gosh, where has that been my whole life?
I'm sure you could find one. I feel like I don't want to say they're a rave right now, but I've heard people do them before. I think me and girlfriend have tickets for next weekend, so we might have some fun getting some rage and some stuff out of our systems, and then maybe check out a movie. So we'll see.
Sounds like a very healthy alternative to couples counseling.
Right, for sure. So it should be pretty fun. But yeah, we'll definitely have some reviews for you guys later on this week. Remember, we do have our Andor review live every Thursday night for us. Certainly check us out then for your Star Wars fix, and then definitely some movie reviews and any news or trailer reviews that wind up dropping throughout the week as well. But Stuart, if people want to find you on social media, man, where can they find you?
You guys can find me at TurboStew01 over on Twitter and on Instagram.
And if you want to follow us, you can find us anywhere, as you can see right here at A Plus Opinions. Very active over on social media. We're also over on TikTok at Hero Report. Check us out over there. I don't know how you search for people on Letterbox, but we do have a Letterbox account now. I think it's Hero Report, but I'll have to find that out for you guys.
I may have
We
to
are.
start posting on there then.
Yeah, I posted a couple of quick reviews and thoughts on there for like 3 films so far, but I definitely want to add more as I go out to more movies, hopefully this year. But yeah, we are on TikTok at Hero Report, and then everywhere on social media at A Plus Opinions. Very active over on our Facebook page. We keep that up to date definitely every day, and then at the end of the week, we take 6 topics from there and we talk about them here. So Facebook's always a great place to continue to stay followed up with us, along with our YouTube page, guys. This is certainly our main hub outside of Facebook. So if you want to get all your videos from us, all our thoughts, YouTube is the place right here. Click on that subscribe button and that bell notification, so when we drop brand new videos, you guys will certainly be notified. But that will do it for us here today, ladies and gentlemen. We'll certainly see you guys back next weekend. And until then, do us a big favor, as always. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and keep it A+. We'll talk to you guys later. Bye.